Okay. So it is 6 p.m. Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, and I call this working session of the Elizabeth School District Board of Education to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Director Callahan.
Here.
Director Fletcher.
Present.
Director Hunt. Here. Director Olson.
Here.
And Director Powell. Here.
Okay, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move into the meeting, I would like to take a minute, a moment of silence to honor Charlie Kirk, out of respect who was assassinated very recently. So just a quick moment of silence. Okay. All right, first up, I move that the board approve this working session agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, can you get a roll call?
Director Callahan.
Aye.
Director Fletcher.
Aye.
Director Hunt. Aye. Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Powell. Aye.
And in case people are wondering, Dan is running a little bit late tonight, so he's going to join us as soon as he can. So, very excited. First item up, we have Carl Zander and Travis Anton. Carl's kind enough to come back and visit us. And they're here to talk with us about integrated math at the high school. Talk with us a little bit about why you selected it, how it's been implemented, just give us a little bit of information about the program. So if you want to come up.
They look comfy.
I don't know if they got to be more comfortable than those.
Before we ask that, what's the curiosity and what's prompted this?
Well, we don't know anything about integrated math. We're all used to just your traditional math, and we've heard about it at the high school, and we just want to know a little bit more about it.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, if you can hold the mic there. Yeah. Is it on?
Have you got numbers?
Oh,
Do you have
perfect.
numbers on the front?
Yep. We're missing
Okay,
a light
so you're
on that.
Yep, cool.
That's it.
Are you interested in what's the difference between integrated math and the traditional?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. So integrated math means that they just don't separate the concepts of algebra from geometry from other things. So
Okay.
most of the world teaches an integrated type of math
Okay.
rather than the United States.
Okay.
So it's just not separated geometry from algebra or algebra from the rest of math. It's just not isolated. So
Okay.
you hit all the different concepts, but it's not separated.
Okay.
So that's the basics of integrated.
Yeah, it's done some pretty cool stuff with that. Just like, here's an example of something I thought was really cool. So in integrated 1, we teach lines. And we teach how to find the equation of a line, your basic y equals mx plus b type stuff. And usually, after you do that, you start at some point finding the equation of a perpendicular line.
Mm-hmm.
But the book will go to transformations, a geometry concept. And I was like, why are we doing transformations? This seems odd, right? And so going through it, teaching rotations, translations, and reflections. Then the next chapter, they cover perpendicular lines.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the transformations, you learned how to take a triangle and you would rotate it 90 degrees. And so you'd have the slope of it this way. When you rotate it 90 degrees, suddenly the slope of that rotated triangle is the slope of the perpendicular line that you're going to find in the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my traditional way of teaching it, always tell kids it's opposite reciprocal. It's got to the opposite. Got to flip, change the sign, opposite reciprocal, and I would just train them opposite reciprocal. I didn't have to do that anymore because they had the visual of the triangle rotating 90 degrees. They could see the slope triangle, the values change as it rotates.
Mhm.
So when we went into that lesson, it makes sense. There's a visual, there's a concept tied to it versus just a, oh, you flip it, you change the sign without a kind of a visual representation. So having them coordinate together is really kind of cool.
Okay. So what went into the decision? Like, what was the deciding factor to go from traditional to the integrated?
Well, we had a mastery program that some teachers had developed prior to that. So the students would take quizzes. They had to get like 80% or higher on the quizzes. 70?
On the Moodle stuff, yeah.
Okay, 70% or higher on the quizzes. And they would do each of the quizzes for a chapter. And when they passed all the quizzes, they'd take the chapter test. And it was done through a program called Moodle. And so they would take the quizzes, they have to show their work, get the feedback from the teacher, and just keep retaking, and then obviously get tutoring and stuff.
Mhm.
And the students got very good at the types of problems that were on the Moodle test.
Mhm.
But then when it looks like going beyond that, trying to apply it outside of it, trying to problem solve, if it didn't look like the problems that they were doing, they really struggled with problem solving outside that varies to particular problem sets.
Mhm.
And so that was one of the reasons we started looking at.
Yeah, one of the other ones is they started that homegrown talent initiative that they got the grant for.
Uh-huh.
And then they were wanting you to brainstorm all these different courses to add to the program.
Mhm.
And then Carl and Mrs. Haugen had a conversation about, well, if we're gonna add more things at the top, we have to streamline what's at the bottom. You can't have a ton of extra.
Okay.
And so we started thinking about what do we look at? Do we look at a new materials? Do we do those types of things?
Mhm.
And Mrs. Haugen had said, well, we taught an integrated at this other school, and so that prompted some of the thinking. And then we started doing some research on what to look for and what to look at. So we looked at instructional models within the
Mhm.
curriculums, and then we looked at, well, do we want to go to a traditional track or an integrated track? And so we looked at what the rest of the world did teach,
Mhm.
and then why do we separate the concepts? Why do math is math?
Yeah.
And like he was saying, transformations are within algebra, and algebra is within all sorts of pieces, so why separate it? So then we did quite a bit of discussion on which track we were gonna look at, and then we got a lot of integrated materials to look
Uh-huh.
at.
Okay. So how has the overall success of the program been? Have you been, how have the students been doing with the program? Has it been well received? Is it?
I mean, you always have certain students that don't like any
Uh-huh.
program.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not a math person.
So as a general rule, problem solving has gone much better. Kids are doing more thinking rather than just rote memorization or mimicking.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can mimic success for a little while, but you don't
Mhm.
understand it. So their problem solving skills have gone up. Their conceptual understanding's definitely much more deeper. We don't have a lot of, it's mitigated some of the problems that you used to have with sign numbers and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely.
So you're still teaching algebra, you're still teaching geometry?
Mhm.
just
We're teaching, yeah.
Within the same.
yeah,
It's
it's all the
just
same material, but it's not separated from, algebra's been pulled out.
Okay, so
Algebra's
it's not
always
like
powerful,
teach
too.
algebra 1, algebra 2, it's just all integrated?
Right.
And kind
so
of
they
taught
have,
simultaneously?
You have statistics in the chapters.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have, I mean, in statistics you have geometry problems because a circle graph is a geometry problem.
Mhm.
And so if you try to separate all the math, it's kind of hodgepodge. And then if you were teaching just the geometry standards in Colorado, it's
Mhm.
only a 6-month course. So what are you doing for the other 6 months? So if you're
Mhm.
just going by the standards in Colorado, the geometry standards are not a full year course anyway. So we looked at the standards as well when we were looking at these things of what is it we're supposed to be teaching and what's Colorado ask.
Mhm.
And then if you look at just the books, how do they work at getting to those pieces? so,
When was this transition made?
4 years ago.
4 years ago?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So you probably have a pretty good data set as to the improvement or whatever.
I don't know if you would have a data set because I don't know if you had data from before. You know, that we didn't collect a ton of data. It's all antecedent evidence. You know, what do we feel?
Mhm.
You know, yeah. We didn't have a data
Yeah.
pool
Okay.
to say, okay, well, we took this and we don't have something that we could measure specifically, I don't think.
Okay.
We'd have to go back and pull things if you wanted a specific measurement.
Okay.
I mean, you could create that, but
Yeah.
it's not something that we've looked at.
Yeah, because we don't really have like a test that's like at a school level. There's the SAT,
Mhm.
the 9th and 10th grade tests. I should know
The
what they're called.
SAT?
Yeah, because my wife does it. Yeah, we have those tests, but the proportion of students who actually take it is still pretty small. So I don't know that it's a big
Yeah.
enough data set to make a.
It's the same thing with the CMAS. We don't have a good enough pool
Yeah.
to use
Okay.
that data for what are they doing.
Okay.
I mean, historically, in mathematics, kids that graduate from high school and go to college, it's 50 to 60% of them go into remedial math
Yeah.
classes.
Mhm.
So historically, that's a big problem. And so there's been a lot of push to change that historical
Mhm.
stuff in math.
Okay.
And so CPM does a lot of, we settled on CPM because of what they had for the teachers, what they had for the students, and
Okay.
the instructional models that they have, the continued training that they have.
Mhm.
So it was a 1.5-year process that we went through. And then when we started the process, we asked, well, what are the protocols here? And there were no protocols in for the adoption.
Okay.
And we tried to bring the middle school on, but they had no interest in doing a vertical alignment and working with us on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't have like a director of curriculum or anything at the district
Yeah.
level. So we just kind of went, hey, what we're doing, we're seeing that what we're doing now is not meeting the goals for our students, so we wanted to look at some other stuff. We went to our principal, and we went to the
And the current
superintendent.
textbooks were what, 27 years old,
They were-
25 years old?
They were pretty old. I
Yeah.
don't remember exactly how old they were, but yeah.
Because they actually moved from the other building.
Yeah.
The
So you
current-
weren't getting a good feed from the middle
the
school
old-
into the high school?
That's also
No
true, but
line.
I'm talking about the materials that we were
Uh-huh.
using were materials that they had at the middle school when the high school was over there. They
Oh.
just moved those materials, so they were that old.
Okay.
So it was time for new materials probably too.
Okay.
Yeah, we were rebinding books, and yeah, some of that stuff is pretty old.
Yeah.
What kind of materials do you actually have now? I mean, do you have?
We have books.
You do have books?
And they can get online versions, but most kids don't want them. I mean, I can show you the poster that
Yeah.
they check off. They would rather use a physical textbook than an online
Yeah.
Good for
textbook.
them.
That's kind of how
Yeah.
I
I don't know.
preferred it.
I do
Yeah.
Just-
as well.
Yeah.
So the kids would rather, I mean, they could get them, but
Mhm.
we don't have any licenses with them for
Okay.
the electronic versions.
Okay.
When do y'all start using graphing calculators?
Course one.
You don't think that's too early?
No. Why do you?
Absolutely.
Why do you think it's too early?
Because you need to understand the concepts before you go start using a computer.
There's evidence that shows that the kids that can use the computer and actually function with it have a stronger conceptual concept than the ones that can't.
Yeah, I've seen data the other way too, so.
You'd have to show me the data then.
Yeah, well,
So-
you as well.
Okay.
Show me that data. You know, I don't believe it.
Well, that'll be a good conversation, collaboration.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And I've looked at the integrated math. I mean, a concept that's covered, you know, you just flip through the book and, you know, there's a concept and then some of the problems will refer to something that's 20 lessons ago.
Correct.
So the child is trying to figure out, like, how does this concept, it doesn't, you know, these are the problems that they're trying to understand, the concept that's being taught now. But the concept before that one is 20 lessons before. So.
I think
So-
you're talking about several different things. So in this material, it is called mixed space practice. So many of their problems are from the previous year, or it's called preview and review. So not all of their homework problems are on the single concept that
Sure.
they might be working on.
Yeah, and
So-
there should be review, right?
Right.
You should be reviewing concepts,
So-
but there also should be, the problems for the concept that you're working there, the antecedent to that lesson is 20 lessons before it. So the child is trying to figure out, like, okay, where did I learn the stuff that I needed to know for this lesson? And it's not in the lesson before it, it's not in the lesson before that, it's
I really
way
don't
back in the
understand
beginning
what
of the book.
you're pointing out, because you're talking about the homework problems, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying that the homework, so they might have 1 or 2 homework problems at the most on the current material, the rest of them are review.
Right, but the current material, like, what you're trying to do now is, you're trying to place little blocks on little blocks, because math builds on itself, right? And the blocks, you'll have, 1 green block, and the previous green block is 20 lessons before that. So how is that building their concepts a little bit by little bit? And to me, it looks like it just kind of jumps around.
You need to scaffold to build that knowledge. That's why it goes back to spiraling and going back and reviewing. You continually are building upon what they learned previously so that they have that ingrained so they can use it in later lessons.
There's a great, I'll have to find this for you, but there's a great graph that shows, it's 2 different learning models. So the traditional model is you focus on a topic, you drill and kill for that unit, and then you take a test. And then you move on to the next one. And that's kind of the old traditional model. So students might get really good at that while they're drilling, killing, and that's all they're doing, practicing that skill, right? And then you drop off, and then you go on to the next subject, and that knowledge drops off afterwards.
'Cause you don't really go back and
mixed
review.
practice review, so that those problems keep showing up from previous chapters in the homework. So they're seeing it again, and they're seeing it again, and they're seeing it again. And so it may look like that was 20 chapters ago or 20 lessons ago, but it's shown up in a number of homeworks since then. So what they're trying to do is create a long-term memory. So the graph shows a study that they did, one model which was a very high peak, and actually it was the highest peak was the drill and kill, and the kids performed very well, and then the drop-off was severe afterwards, their retention. Where the other model, the retention wasn't as much, the learning wasn't as much throughout the unit, but the drop-off was a lot less. So I'll have to find that graph for you. And so that mixed practice review is supposed to create a longer memory of that content.
It's also mastery over time. So sometimes they're introduced to a topic and they're not supposed to master it at that point. So you introduce something so that they can start building some blocks to getting to the mastery. So it's not mastery in 2 days.
Mhm.
It might be mastery over time. It might be mastery on the second course, and they've seen the precursor in the first course of some of the building blocks to that. So
And it has checkpoints, like, so they may have introduced a topic here, and it's been hit at a number of different lessons, and then the checkpoint mastery is, weeks away. And so they learn it, they keep reviewing it. That was actually, it was hard my first year going through it, was like, I was so geared to, they must get it now, and just say, it's okay, they're gonna get it. And by the time, we got there, the students were generally doing much better on it. So, yeah, it's a different type of approach than a traditional method.
Mhm.
But I found students that they were grasping it by the time we got to those checkpoints.
Okay.
I have kind of a weird question, and this is probably gonna sound dumb, so I'm sorry. But, so as you teach through these concepts that sort of, integrate with each other, do they know they're doing algebra, and then they're doing, this piece is geometry, and this piece is statistics? Do they realize that? I mean, I know that's kind of weird, but.
If it's in the big topic of statistics, they do understand that.
Okay.
But algebra as a tool has waned in its importance, because we have computers now. So it used to be the tool that we went to for algebra, because we didn't have a computer to do it, we didn't have other things that we could do it with. So the tool of algebra is not as strong in the whole scheme of math anymore than it used to be. And so, do they know that they're doing algebra? Yes, they understand that, hey, I'm manipulating the stuff, and that's an algebra concept, but do they think that they're separating it all? I don't think so.
And have you gotten any feedback from parents, how they feel about it?
I haven't gotten any negative feedback from maybe a handful of two, three people. So the rest of them is positive feedback from parents.
Definitively positive, or just sort of don't say anything?
Both.
I would say I've got, I was getting mixed. There were some people with concerns. And then other parents liked it. So I would say it's been a mix.
Is there any kind of communication that, especially early on, I would think, but every year it's a new group of kids, so it's kind of a new communication, so to speak, to the parents to help them understand? I mean, because we all grew up, I took algebra 1 and 2, and then I took geometry and et cetera. And it's a total new concept for most parents to think of this not as, algebra 1, algebra 2, trig, geometry, et cetera. Is there any kind of communication that you've tried to develop
We haven't done anything big
to
ongoing,
parents
though.
to help them understand that it is still covering everything?
The initial time we did, but we haven't
Yeah.
generated that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I get the course descriptions and the course description guide maybe,
Yeah.
but I mean, that, I would say no.
Maybe that's something.
Yeah.
I still think it's important that students understand they're doing algebra. You said algebra's not that big a deal because we have computers
No,
now.
I said it's not as powerful.
Not as powerful because we have computers now. Well, spelling's not as powerful anymore because we have spell check now.
Mhm.
But I still want my kids to know how to spell.
Right.
So
Right.
it's still important.
I think you're misinterpreting what I said. I didn't say that learning algebra is not important. I said it's not as powerful a tool in the scheme of math in the big picture, because you have other tools that can take that power as well. I didn't say it's not important.
Okay. It's not as powerful. Same with spelling. My analogy still works.
Okay. So,
So is this something, so you mentioned in the beginning, you kind of brought in the parents. Is this something that we could help the parents to understand, like if they need to help their
absolutely.
kid with homework after
Well, there's
work?
homework
Is it
help
all the
access
same?
on the website,
Okay.
so.
Okay,
The CPM program, that's one of the reasons we picked it, is it had
Okay.
homework help for the
Okay.
parents to get. It has supports for those.
okay,
So the kids are told about that. I don't know if they take it to their parents or.
okay.
Yeah, it sounds like another piece of that communication.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
You just go on to
So-
I found it to be
cpm.org,
garbage.
and then you can look up their homework problem, and it gives them homework help on
Okay.
whatever problems there
Okay.
are.
So just a
Yeah.
communication.
So sometimes it shows them, hey, here's a
Mhm.
hint. Sometimes it gives them the answer. It's homework help.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think they're that helpful at all. Like, I'm just putting that out there. I don't think they're very helpful. So I can't imagine that. And I'm an engineer, so I literally do math for a living. And the helping my own child at home, and just that it's not, the book is laid out in such a weird way. It's hard to go back and re-explain a topic to a child when there's no, they can't tell you, either, maybe they can't, because they don't remember, because it was so long ago or whatever, and you're trying to figure it out, and then the online help's not very helpful, and so I can do it, but how to explain it the way it will help her, because she doesn't know calculus. So I can explain to her where 4/3 pi r cubed comes from, but that's not gonna help her to do a triple integral in class. class, right? So how she needs to know it is basically how the book explains it, right? I mean, she needs to know it for the test, the way it's explained in class. And if a parent can't find where it is so they can walk the child back through it, it's not as helpful.
I'd have to see what you're talking about with the homework help. But sometimes, sometimes the student may not remember stuff, so I would encourage the parents to say, hey, I'm not understanding this, you need to talk to your teacher, you know, to get that back into the classroom. And then sometimes there might be multiple methods that they're learning. Sometimes they do it this way or this way, and that kid might have a different preference. So not all math is done just one way. You know?
Sure.
And so you can approach a problem 3 or 4 different times, different ways sometimes. So depending on that kid, they might be doing something a little slightly different than another kid. So I would encourage, if that's the case, that the kid is not, and we put that out there, is, you know, come back, and if you're not getting the help from the homework help, then, you know, encourage your kid to ask questions from the teacher at that point.
So do you feel the kids coming from the middle school into the high school, do you feel like, is it hard for them to comprehend the integrated math versus what would be considered traditional?
No.
Is there a learning
I would
curve
say
there?
the content as much as the teaching style.
Well, we've had, I mean, the last, 5 years with the middle school, you've had so much turnover and so many different
Mhm.
things that you're having a hodgepodge of different kids coming up all the time.
Mhm.
And so we have tons of holes that we're filling.
Okay.
And so, to make that analogy that the transition, there's so many other pieces
Okay.
that it might not be that issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
a good example is, the kind of the expectation, students coming up to the high school should know how to solve a two-step equation,
Mhm.
right? So it's
It's an 8th grade standard.
it's an 8th grade standard. We have to reteach it every year. We have
Every
to
year.
go back
Okay.
and reteach that. It's actually an appendix to the book.
Mhm.
So we have to go back and teach that chapter because so many of the students don't know how to do it. And so we're not even talking about distributive property or
Mhm.
fractions or anything. We're just talking just a two-step,
Mhm.
you know, subtract from both sides or whatever and divide or whatever, and then you're done. And so that's been a challenge.
What about some of those other like you mentioned, fractions and the distributive properties?
I think it's kind of a mixed bag. Like, some students will come in with strong fraction skills and some other students won't. So, you know, we'll cover that, how to do it. We also, calculators are allowed to use too as a support, because at some point, if we spend all our time reteaching fractions, we're never gonna get to the algebra. I mean, fractions is an elementary school standard, right? And so, we certainly can help students and reteach and support individual students that are struggling on it, but we use calculators because, for some of that, so that we're not bogged down by that part of it.
I would describe it the difference between filling a hole and patching a hole.
Okay.
So the fractions, they come up with a hole, sometimes you're patching it with the calculator.
Mhm.
Are they moving past it? Do they understand fractions? Maybe not. But can they do the problems with the calculator? Absolutely. So you can't go back to all the standards that they've missed sometimes.
Okay.
So, yeah, so fractions,
Mm.
it's always been a problem.
Yeah.
Coming up to high school.
Okay.
Fractions have always been a problem. Yeah?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Makes
what-
algebra hard.
Huh?
Makes algebra hard.
Well, you can make a complex problem. You can put fractions in it and make it complex, or you can keep fractions out of it, but that doesn't change the rigor of the problem. And so you can make complex problems by always putting fractions in it, but yeah. So it can make the problems hard, yeah, if you put fractions in it. So.
I have a question. We talked a little bit about testing, but just as you look at the program over the last 4 years, do you think that implementing this program has resulted overall in test scores improving for students?
This year is the first year that's gone through the whole program.
Okay. Because I know
And
you said you talked about starting the program 4 years ago.
Well, we
And
grandfathered it
beginning
in,
the
so,
research. Okay.
yeah.
This will be the first full year with
This
test
is the
scores?
first year that, No, the second year, that they've gone through all 3 programs. This is the second year.
Oh, so you're saying y'all started with 9th grade and then.
So we grandfathered in, we didn't just blanket switch every
Yeah.
class.
Mhm.
So we phased out the old one, and they kept through that program, and then they came in integrated 1, those kids started integrated 2, so it was a 3-year process putting the materials into the building.
Makes sense.
So
But-
they didn't just take that, one kids that were gonna be in algebra 2 and put them in integrated 3, we didn't do that.
So then you started with like 9th grade was the
Yeah.
first year
Yeah.
that you started the program, and the other grades stayed with the program, the other programs that
Right.
you were using. And then when 9th graders became 10th graders, that was
The
their
next
second
level.
year in the CPF.
Did you see an improvement though for that class that's continued, right? Because they've been tested every year based on this new
I see improvement in my
method.
class, in the problem-solving skills, and just their tenacity of doing the problem. So, the big picture of teaching mathematics at the high school is, the big picture is problem-solving skills, because they're not gonna have a guide to the problems they're gonna hit in the world. It's not always gonna be, hey, here's the answer key, here's the method, it's how do I attack a problem? And so the big picture is problem-solving skills.
Sure.
And then the details are the little things around it. So the problem solving has gotten much better.
Well, and I
So-
appreciate that you're seeing that in the classroom, but my question is more to testing. Like, does it show that there's a proficiency when the students are taking tests, that they understand the concepts better? So does it translate to them taking the test and being like, I'm drawing from this, catalog of information that we've learned in a different way?
So
Is
you're
that
talking
helpful?
about classroom assessments?
No, I'm talking, whether that's any standardized testing, CMAS or others.
Yeah, so the issue that I think we have with CMAS, that we have such a small portion of
Mhm.
students that are participating in it. I don't know that that's a good measure.
Well, my point would be that you have the same number or small percentage of students that have participated before the program started
Mhm.
versus are participating now.
Right.
So you're comparing small percentage to small percentage. So there ought to be at least some, designation or evidence that shows that the students who are taking this test, that small percentage, are hopefully doing better than the small percentage who were taking it before, because this concept should help them be able to apply all of these things that they're learning in the context of the testing. So
Right.
just wondering if that's what you're seeing.
We don't have that test yet, so this is the first time that they're through. So that test would be this year sometime.
So, but 9th graders, right,
Yeah.
were learning this 3 years ago.
Right, but they haven't taken a test this year for the culmination of the program. I don't know where you would take
Yeah,
this
I'm not
test.
talking about culmination, but I guess I'm just asking like to each year, right? When they're potentially having a test that is testing what they're learning, maybe not the full culmination of the program,
So like
but to the
PSA
level
9,
that they're
PSA
at.
10.
Right.
I can pull up some data for the PSATs.
Yeah. And I'd like to
So-
see if it's effective, because I guess my other question would be, what is the metric by which we're gauging the success of this approach? If it's not CMS, what is it? Is it just, your experience in the classroom, or are there actual like standardized ways that we're measuring success of the program? Do you have a suggestion or what you think it should be?
You would have to do a full study at that point, because, without a randomized study, then you're not really having results that you can interpret. So, we could take that evidence, that's 1 year. If you take that PSAT, they've only been in the course, 6 months, 7 months before they take that test. So, that's a pretty small difference in their learning of what that.
Well,
what's
you have
happening.
juniors 5 years ago, right, that were
What you're
on.
talking about the PSAT, pulling up that's a 9th grade test.
Okay, so
So-
juniors take the SAT, right?
Right, and so they haven't taken the test this year, so that would be
Okay,
this
so
first
compare
year.
them to juniors 5 years ago to juniors last year,
Right, you could do that.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to compare them to this year, because we haven't taken the test, but we can go back and look at last year, and then 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and compare that data and see,
Right,
right?
we don't have that, we don't have
Yeah.
access to that. I
Kim
don't
can
have
pull,
access to that.
Kim can pull some information.
I'll pull some information.
I think it's also important to recognize too, whenever you implement any program,
Mhm.
you're gonna see an implementation dip,
Yeah,
right? So your first year, because your first year teaching a program,
The teachers are learning.
the
Yeah,
teachers are learning, right?
and the student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
Do you guys do an end of the, let's say at the end of the year, a culminating assessment?
Well, we have a final exam that we
So-
create.
All of our assessments are cumulative in
Okay,
this
so
course.
like at the end of the year, what, maybe I'll give you guys a call and we can talk about what the percentage is of students that were proficient this year or last year
Right.
versus prior.
So, yeah, that would be tough because of, like,
Yeah.
I don't know that we have final exam data from 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, but maybe we
Yeah.
could go back a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
Kim,
might
if we
take-
can come up with some kind of rigorous method for gauging based on data,
Yep, we can do that.
yeah.
So does this kind of help you understand the integrated math a little bit better, or do you all want to meet and maybe talk about it outside
You
of
you
meeting a
guys are
little bit
welcome
more?
to come in my class anytime, if you wanna
Yeah.
watch,
Mhm.
come into the integrate program. I don't know if you go through Dan or if you go through Brett,
Okay.
you're welcome to come to my class at any point. I think you were there.
Yep.
And so, I mean, if you wanna
Mhm.
see what's going on, there's nothing hidden.
Yeah, I think it
So-
might help understand it a little bit better. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming. Thank you for coming
Sorry for
and
being late.
presenting.
I was at another meeting, so, thank you, gentlemen.
We're finished?
Appreciate it.
Yep,
Yep,
thank
thank
you.
you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the trip in. Help us try and understand integrated.
You're welcome.
Truthfully, it wasn't bad for me, I did what?
Thanks,
It
Carl.
still took effort.
Still got it.
Thanks, Travis.
And then the rain.
Thank
so,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up, we're going to be discussing our revised policy JIH, student interviews, interrogations, searches, and arrests. So Tyler worked on this, legal changes, edits, Chief Engel worked on this, and Mary, you also worked on this. So I was looking it over, and just a couple of questions. So it looks like this line was put in here, parents, guardians will be notified of such events when appropriate. So appropriate's kind of, what's appropriate?
Well-
I'm like, it's such a vague.
Right. Well, I mean, what that goes to is in the case of potential child abuse in the home,
Mhm.
you don't report to parents because the
Mhm,
parents
yeah.
could be the problem. So that's kind of where that goes to. So that's kind of,
Should we be maybe more specific with it rather than leaving
well,
a
we do
general
have, I mean, it's
appropriate?
sort of vague in there, but it does get into the interviews. There's kind of
Mhm.
a paragraph added, and it's actually kind of moved out of an upper paragraph and separated out. Under the interviews part, right before the kind of the fully struck part, it says if a school official is made aware of or notified of a report of child abuse and or neglect, and the suspected perpetrator is a member of the student's family, no contact with the student's
Mhm.
family will be made, instead mandatory reporting laws will be followed. So it is, specifically spelled out there. The reason that we worked on this to begin with, we worked on this a while back.
Mhm.
And we came to the conclusion, that we didn't finalize anything because the policy seemed very, kind of almost mixed up in wording. It was very unclear, when do we do stuff? When does law enforcement get called in? And so we tried to separate things out. And then Tyler and Chief Engel were both very helpful to understand, what does the school do through Tyler?
Mhm.
What does law enforcement do? And what are the approaches to that? So that was kind of our main goal, was to
Mhm.
separate this out and make it very clear, who does what and
Mhm.
whose responsibility is what. I don't know if I said that right, but you get the gist.
Yeah.
So.
Who does what to whom?
That's right. That's right.
I do identify with the comment that Rhonda is making, though, as it would seem to me that parents and guardians should, be notified of such events, except when inappropriate, or except when it involves abuse,
Mhm.
or something, that there might be a assumption of parental notification, except when. And then identifying
Could
when.
we change that to say parents and guardians will be notified of such events unless inappropriate?
Yeah, the only problem would be what is inappropriate.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a
So,
judgment call.
If the issue is with regard to child abuse, then we say, except in in cases of child abuse,
Mhm.
Okay.
that involves a parent.
Okay,
or
so maybe
something
we
like
just
that.
say that. Maybe
Yes,
we
or
just say.
a
abuse in the home, or
Yeah,
it might not necessarily be a parent.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, if it's abuse in the home, you know, I would hope that parents would be involved in that conversation.
You never know.
But in the event that it's abuse of a parent, that is when you would want to
Yeah.
protect that child from potential abuse from a
Mhm.
parent for
Yeah.
that being known.
So what would be good,
So is it just a parent though? What if it's abuse
could be
by a
abuse by a
relative
sibling,
who
yeah,
is an
friend,
adult living
yeah.
in the home?
Well, below it says when the suspected perpetrator is a member of the student's family, so maybe we
Yeah.
can just repeat that again.
Yeah, and I think there's a
Is that the
variety,
legal
there are
standard?
other situations where, again, I mean, there's statute where police would say, I can't inform this parent yet, and that's out of our control. I think that's the challenge.
So if that's the legal
Maybe-
standard, that's
So
what we
there's
should
legal
use.
standards in which, when police are investigating a criminal issue, it's their legal standards that will govern it, not our policy. So, once they are investigating a criminal activity, it's the legal standards that are gonna govern it, whether they're in school investigating that or not.
So could we say parents or guardians will be notified of such events when lawfully allowed?
I think we could say when lawfully allowed, I think that,
except, or except
yeah,
when
yeah.
prohibited by legal statute?
yeah.
Why can't we just
I'm-
move that paragraph up to right after that sentence? So, was that 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph, move it up to after when appropriate?
I think it's because there are other situations where that's
Yeah.
not. I think what Mike is getting at might be really key here is just unless, when lawfully allowed or when lawfully permitted. So,
Right.
Okay.
because it's not only when it's child abuse. I mean, they may be investigating a situation where a student is supplying narcotics, and there may be suspicion that the parent is engaged in that act. I
Like,
hate to say it,
Like,
I've
not that you're
unfortunately.
speaking for experience or anything.
Yeah, no, not, I hate to say it, but yeah, there is some experience there. So, they're not gonna call the parent and say, hey, we're investigating Johnny because, Johnny's dealing and we happen to know that you are too.
Yeah.
So again, there are situations where the law is going to say, no, we're not calling the parent because it happened to be that they're a target of this investigation too.
Yeah.
So I think, parents or guardians will be notified of such events when lawfully permitted.
I like that.
Okay.
The second paragraph, it mentions, don't contact parents prior to interviewing victims or witnesses.
where are you at?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. here.
Interviews by school administrators, second paragraph, like the paragraph right below that.
Mhm.
Any violation?
The principal or designee may interview potential student victims and witnesses without prior consent. Again, that's a judgment call, and there's some parents who would want to be notified if their child is going to be interviewed.
This
So
is-
that.
Right, this isn't the perpetrator, this is,
This
I'm
is-
trying
yeah.
to investigate what's
Uh-huh.
happened.
Yeah,
So if I'm trying to talk to 10 kids on the
Mhm.
playground who saw what happened, if I
Mhm.
have to call 10 parents and wait for them to respond, to actually
Mhm.
get to the bottom of what
Mhm.
happened, you have now made a situation extremely
Mhm.
lengthy
yeah.
versus I'm just wanna know, Mary, what did you see? What did you see? What did you see? What did you see?
Mhm.
I think that's what this is trying to get at.
Okay.
If I'm
That makes
just trying to
sense.
figure out what happened, should a parent be notified, hey, I've spoken to your child, yes,
Mhm.
is it before or after
Yeah.
in that situation? I think that's really what this is trying to get at.
That makes sense.
Parents have to be notified, hey, I did talk to your child today, there was an incident on the playground, your child
Mhm.
witnessed it, just want you to know I did talk to Johnny and
Mhm.
Johnny shared what
Okay.
he witnessed.
I like that.
So this is just
That
trying
makes
to,
sense.
yeah. I mean, sometimes we'll go into a classroom because something's occurred and we'll talk to 30 students. If I have to wait for 30 parents to finish their meeting at work and get back to me before I can talk to their child.
It'll be
We've
next
just
week.
tied up an administrator's day for something that may be as minor as who took their bubble gum. And that's probably a little over the
Okay.
top.
All right, I'm okay with that. Why did we remove the searches conducted by section?
Because it was very redundant the way it was, and it's all kind of taken care of in the next sections. I would actually,
Okay.
personally, I would like to see the title, searches conducted by school personnel, left in, and then the language there kind of taken out, but then go to search of school property as A, kind of like the way law enforcement officers' involvement is below, as in A, B, C, whatever. So I think search of school property could be A, search of students' personal effects would be B, seizure of items C, and then D, the student search form. I think that would be clearer. We have, but the language was redundant to what's in the rest, so. So that's kind of why we.
So search of school property would be A, search of the student's person or personal effects would be B, seizure of items would be C, and the student search form would be D?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
I like that.
so I think that, because, I mean, honestly, it was a very confusing policy.
It's a
So
long
really
one.
We
Mhm.
were really struggling to, even when we were looking at it again, we're kind of like, what?
Yeah.
It's in different formats,
Yeah.
each section, so it was
Yeah.
probably amended to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
at one of these.
Yeah, so we just need to be sure everybody knows what they can do, what they should do, and what they shouldn't do. And so that was our goal.
And then the other question, my last question, I'm sorry to be peppering on you on this because I know you work so hard.
No, no, no,
Um,
that's what the point of this is.
So, under search of school property, what is the meaning of there will be no expectation of privacy during property searches?
Meaning anything brought on school grounds is fair game.
Okay.
That anything brought into school is subject to search. The school administrators have a reasonable suspicion versus probable cause. So law enforcement officers operate on probable cause. They have to have a probable cause to actually conduct a search. School administrators have to have a reasonable suspicion to conduct a search. So there is no right to privacy in anything brought onto a school campus.
So they couldn't say, it was my backpack and I put it in my locker, so you can't get in there. It's,
Correct.
a locker is school property.
Locker is school property.
And so we.
A
have the
car
right
on
to-
school campus is school property.
So-
I mean,
So that's kind of
that's what the
just
law says.
saying that, you know, yes, it's in your locker, but your locker is school
If you,
property. so
if you
it's
bring your
subject.
school onto school property, your school, the car becomes subject to search.
Right. So, Dan, to your point on that, does the language of that, I mean, is the parking lot considered a storage area, so to speak? Would that fall under that for
Yeah.
purposes
Yeah.
of the cars?
Yep.
Okay.
It's the same with emails. When we provide an email to a student, there's no right to privacy in a student's email address. If a student sends an email, that email is subject to search.
Should we include that? Because we don't really have
That-
anything that,
That's in the tech policy,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
That's all I had.
That's all you had?
That's all I had.
I was thinking in the, what is now gonna be B, search of the student's person or personal effects, and we kind of got, may search the person of a student or a student's personal effects such as purse, backpack, or bag or briefcase. I just don't want an interpretation to mean that is all. I mean, I don't know what else they might have or what they might bring, but I wondered if we should put including such as, but not limited to a purse, yada yada. So I thought that might be just to clarify that it's kind of whatever
Such as,
your
but not
personal effects
limited
are.
to.
It
Pardon?
first, I
Such
think.
as, but not limited to.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I was just kind of thinking. And then, in C, we just kind of need to fix number 2 a little bit. A should start with return to parent guardian. It's kind of, so just
No,
kind of
that's
some
stuff,
fixes
yeah.
of that. And then D needs to be bolded. And then we created the form, which we'll get to momentarily, we'll share. Yeah. Other than that's all I have. Whatever you did off track. And I don't know that this is, again, I mean, we'll do this in the business thing, but I think, I would like, at our next meeting, I would like actually Tyler to be available for
Yeah.
questions as well. Because, I mean, I think this is gonna be very important
Mhm.
to hear from him
Yeah.
and his input from when we met to work on it, so,
He will
I
be
think
back
this will
for
go
the next
to-
board meeting. so-
yeah,
Okay.
so, like in October, I guess, that would be,
Mhm.
where we can actually have Tyler here to
Mhm.
answer,
Yeah.
you know.
He can review this before
Mhm.
he
Yeah,
comes.
I mean, he has reviewed it
Yes.
and he had input into this, but I would like him to
Yep,
be available for
exactly.
everybody to ask questions.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that, like,
Yeah.
if he could.
Yeah, and
Look
if you'd
at
like,
it.
Chief Engel would be happy to be here as
Yeah.
well, if you
Oh, that would
would
be good,
like
yeah.
some of the clarifications from the law enforcement side. I
I
have
think
no
that would
doubt
be
that
good,
Chief
yeah.
Engel
We
would
could have
be
them
happy
both
to.
here that night, so, yeah.
Well,
To
and
make sure
be-
we're not doing something
Yeah,
that's.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I mean,
So
he
this
can
is a-
probably provide better examples
Yeah,
than
well, and
what I
he's the
can.
one who has to enact this policy,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
well, I mean, they all are, but
Yeah,
on the
he's the,
staff, but,
he's the one that's front and center with
yeah,
it.
he's on the hook, right?
Yeah, so, and it was a very interesting conversation we had when we worked on this together, of, you know, kind of the realities of what he has to face every day. And not every day, hopefully, but you know what I mean. But.
On the regular.
You know, regular enough that, you know, he needs to be aware of it, and he sees the situations that, you know, I am pleased to report that I don't necessarily know or understand as the situations that can occur. And so, you know, I think it will be very useful for him and Chief Engel to come in and just have their, you know, hear the questions that we have, and we can think about it a little bit more too.
All right, any more discussion on JIH? Okay, you ready to move on to JIHE? Okay,
Ready.
so that's the student search form, JIHE, which can be paper or electronic.
And that's new, based on Tyler's recommendation, that way they can fill out the form electronically and
Mhm.
store it, that it's not automatically uploaded into their student file in case it was found that
There's nothing.
there was no wrongdoing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like they have an attachment
Yeah,
to their student file that
Mhm.
could be negative.
yeah.
But that way they have a place to keep it.
This fellow is real specifically to this JIH, and all the things that, you know, another thing that I would like Tyler to explain and talk about is, and Dan, you can probably do this too, but there are occasions that we can do random searches, just,
Mhm.
you know, whatever. And
Last
so-
Wednesday,
Pardon me?
last Wednesday, case in
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. So, you know, and so we need to know, we need to have a record of what
Mhm.
those things were, so.
Mhm.
And by the way, Tyler does kind of keep records of things already,
Mhm.
so it's not like, you know, this would be a brand-new
Mhm.
practice,
Mhm.
but this is a, you know, a specific form that would help in the process.
I didn't see any issues with the form. Any more discussion on this one? Okay.
Just one nitpicky thing,
Okay.
Jamie. Number 9, the font size is different than all the other ones.
Well, and just so you know, when we bring it back and forth from Google to Word to,
Yeah.
so before I ever post it all, I try to go
It's
through
fine.
and
I
make it
just
all right.
noticed, I was like, why is that so
I
much
do miss
smaller?
things
You know
on
what's sad is I
occasion,
don't
but thank
notice
you.
it that much.
Yeah.
I was just checking to see.
Checking
No,
your, yeah, this
it-
is your eye test.
Yeah.
I do try to go through it before it ever is final, but
Yeah,
I
you
know.
always do
Yes.
a good job of
I
cleaning
miss
it all up
stuff
at the
though,
end.
I know.
Nobody can get it all. Plus, after you look at it for a while, you can't even see it
You
anymore.
know, that's true, I no longer see
Been
it.
there, done that.
And depending on who's typed it, they don't always use the correct, so then I put it back into our format,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so next up, let's talk about our new regulation, KEC-R-2 library protocols.
So based on our conversations at the last, this is the second time it's coming back to you. We did split Protocol 1 into Protocol 1 and 2, which moved 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. Protocol 1 is reviewing of existing instructional materials, which really directed us to policy KEC, which outlines how constituents could bring concerns of existing materials, whether they're curriculum, resource materials, or library materials, how that would be brought forward, and the 3 criteria that the board has set: age appropriateness, alignment of materials to prove curriculum and educational value, as well as a pathway for other concerns to be brought forward for review of existing materials. And then Protocol 2, which is a selection process, and that really points to IJ, policy IJ. So we just tried to align the language in those 2, Protocol 1 and 2, to the policies and really point to those policies, so that way, as those policies change, we don't have to come in and change this protocol. So you'll notice both say in conjunction with related district policies, and just tried to capture the wording out of those policies so that we would not have to continually track any changes to that. So obviously the key is that the board is the final approval of those. That we do have a curriculum review committee that would ultimately review concerns and ultimately new selection of processes, and ultimately the board would approve. So that's what we brought to you, and certainly happy to take any additional feedback.
So Protocol 1 specifically states policy KEC.
Mm-hmm.
Protocol 2 does not state a specific policy. Do we want to be
We could
consistent
yeah,
and just state it so
in
that it's
conjunction
there?
with related district policies.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, we could say
Find
district
it.
policy
Don't
IJ.
have to go hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Policy hunting.
Is it just idea?
IJ is a policy.
I know we
yeah.
just worked on KEC, so I apologize for this question, and I can't
Mhm.
remember, but in Protocol 1, it's more about the review process of somebody bringing something to our attention.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem to, and I don't recall that KEC has anything specific about, CRC or the board initiating just an overall
Yep.
review process
Yep.
to vet or to curate.
Yep.
So I wonder if we should add something like that in there, and maybe it's another protocol number or something.
Well, we added it to the second paragraph. Should it say should, so the second, should materials be identified through other means?
Yeah.
That's, we've added to provide another avenue, should something surface, like all of a sudden we realize, oh my gosh, where did that come from? Because we obviously still have materials being used that came through, gosh only knows what process. And so that's in there to provide that safety net.
Yeah.
We have the KEC process, which is through stakeholder alerts, parents for library books, other stakeholders for curriculum, resources and materials. And then we have that safety net for other materials that might surface. The selection process is
that's-
Protocol 2.
Yeah. So you think the through other means would cover just a general process of, a general regular curation process? You think that's broad
Yeah.
enough to cover that?
That's was the intent. If there's wording there that you feel like should be clarified further. So it really points it to me that if that was surfaced, it would be referred to me, and then I would initiate that process, which would involve the curriculum review committee. So if materials were identified that needed to be further reviewed, it would come to me, And then I would initiate that with the systems we have in place, the curriculum review committee. That's what we envisioned in that paragraph, but again, we can continue to work on that. This isn't a policy that I think we want to rush through.
No, I don't think we do.
Yeah.
I guess in my head, I'm thinking it's just, I can see other means being individual onesie twosie kind
Mhm.
of books,
Mhm.
let's look at this and
Mhm.
think about this. I guess maybe I'm thinking, should materials be identified through other means, comma, including a regular curating process, comma, and then yada yada. Do you think that's?
Yeah, we could certainly add that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
I
think
like
it needs
that.
to be a lot, but I just kind
Yeah.
of think it's a good idea to have that in there as a general process,
Including another curating what?
including a general curating process, or an overall curating process or something like that. I don't know, something.
I like general.
General or
Yeah.
overall one.
Yeah, no, we
General.
did have our
And general.
attorneys review this, and they felt it was very solid, so we'll definitely want to go back and just
Yeah.
make sure that nothing we've added, we'll change that, so.
Right.
I had a clarifying question in the first sentence of Protocol 2. At the end, we talk about the efficient review of instructional materials and resources. And then it says, and materials again. I wasn't sure if that was just superfluous, or is there
No.
other materials you have in mind?
I could scratch that one
Wait.
out.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there, did I have materials
You
twice?
had too much material
Sorry.
going on.
Okay.
Alright.
I
It
didn't
just
know if
seems
we were
very
talking about
fluffy
something
to
else.
me.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Is it
yeah.
IMR or IRM?
IRM, or
Sorry.
I am,
I don't know where that came from. My mom was a seamstress.
IRM, IRM, yeah.
So it should be instructional
Re-
material,
re-
or
resources and materials, yeah.
Okay.
Resources and
Remember
materials,
that.
sorry.
Excellent.
Yeah, sorry, so I have materials twice in that,
Again, didn't know.
sorry.
There were more
Thank you.
materials.
Yeah, I apologize,
No need,
eyes
no
were
need.
crossing.
In Protocol 3, a couple of times, I think, we referred to destiny, and I don't know if we do in Protocol 4 too. I know, it's in there a couple times. And I recognize that's our,
Mhm.
what do you call that? What is that
Our
called?
library catalog system.
Okay. I just wondered if we should be so specific to destiny.
Or should we just
Or
say
called
our
the
say
library
library-
catalog
library
system.
catalog system?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I just
Probably a
think,
good idea.
otherwise we're gonna have to, you know.
Every
Amend
time,
everything.
if we
Yeah,
change it.
exactly.
Mhm.
And another thing that I was wondering is, in Protocol 3, where it says all parents will automatically receive an email from our library catalog system.
Mhm.
When their student checks out a book from the sensitive catalog,
Mhm.
topic catalog. I wonder if we should add the sentence in there, which is true, but I just think it might be good to put it in there. Parents have full control over their response to such email. Because it's not like you have to respond, you don't have to do anything, but you've been
Right.
notified. And I
Right.
just think it might be good to have that clarity in this policy.
Okay.
That it's up to the parents
You
to
can
do
send it to junk, you can send
everything
it to
or nothing
spam.
with that.
Mhm.
It's-
And maybe even identifying it as a notification email. You
Mhm.
know, this isn't a personal email to say, did you know that your child checked this book out?
Yeah.
It's more like, here's a courtesy, this
Mhm.
book has been
Yeah.
checked out by your child.
Yeah.
It's simple notification.
Yeah, and I think literally all it says is, your child has checked out, just a notification, and it's very simple. Your child has checked out a book that is on our sensitive topic list, this is the book. If you have any questions, contact your librarian. Honestly, that's, I think, all it says,
And they could spam it, so they don't get it anymore
Yeah.
if they wanted to.
if they want to, yeah. So,
Well, and the purpose of that, you know, some people like it, some people don't, but the purpose of that is if you are a parent that wants to know what your child is reading, maybe you're fine with it, you don't care, but there might be other parents that are like, hey, I think that's something we need to sit down and talk about. But they're not given that opportunity without that notification.
Mhm,
right.
So,
right.
So
Yeah.
you're suggesting we add a bullet that indicates something to the effect of parents have full control?
Either a bullet or even just at the end of that first
Tack
bullet,
it on the end.
either way, I
Okay.
don't, I just think that needs to be in there.
And you wanted to say notification.
Yeah, a notification email, yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Why is OPT capitalized?
opt.
And they opt out, I guess
I-
it's,
Is
Yeah.
it's
that
just
an acronym?
emphasis, no,
No,
to opt out.
I think for some reason Word is capitalizing that
Okay.
automatically, but we can it shouldn't be.
Yeah, okay. I
On-
don't know if there's
On that bullet about opting out, do you think we should, and how do they do that? I guess, I think maybe we should say, did they just send an email to the librarian,
Hmm.
to the U, to their principal? How do they do that?
It's an annual process. We send out that at the beginning of the year. We sent it out.
Okay.
We sent it out at the
Okay.
beginning of the year.
Should we,
So we
Through
should,
the-
probably should indicate that.
yeah, so opt out through the annual, beginning of the year?
I think we
Stuff.
should add a bullet that says,
But it sounds like they could opt out any time of the year.
they could
as
opt
well.
out,
Where I
yeah,
had
but
that.
but it's an, yeah, we do an annual, it's like an open enrollment
Yeah.
period.
Oh, yeah.
But parents could opt out at any time,
Anytime,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, but we do, at the beginning of the year, before libraries open for checkout, we send that out as a notification, so.
So what are we gonna say then, through the annual?
I think we'll want to clarify the second bullet that says parents are offered that, but may choose to opt out at any point
Right.
during the
Yeah,
year.
something like that, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll clarify the second bullet. Okay.
And then on number 4, I think that there's sort of a stray bullet point in the paragraph that is, half of it starts on the top of page 4. I think that actual, from that bullet point on down, because it's all about the sensitive topic list again, I think that needs to actually go under Protocol 3, not in this one about parental access. Doesn't it seem like that should be moved up?
Which bullet point?
So
It's
it's
kinda
kind
hidden
of
in
on
the
page
middle.
4.
The stray one?
That's
Yeah,
the
it's
one that
kind of-
starts with all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that, all the way down to the rest of that language should, I think, because it's all about the sensitive topic thing, so I think it should go up into Protocol 3.
And I think the implication here, right, is that if it's, even though it's on the sensitive topic list, is that it still is age appropriate and in accordance with our
Has
part of
edu-
our curriculum.
Has educational
Yeah.
value.
Yeah, it still has educational value. If it doesn't, then we're not gonna keep it in the library at all.
Mhm.
Moving to 3.
I think it actually is supposed to be a bullet. It's
Mhm.
supposed to be a bullet in here.
Yeah, it kind of ties
It
to
just,
below.
it should be a bullet down here. I'm not sure it shouldn't be repeated in the first one. No, Mary, I think you have a good point. I don't know that it maybe should, because we don't talk about what is a sensitive topic.
Actually, it's probably starting with the sentence before that, the following protocols outline the process and guidelines for sensitive topic catalogs. So probably starting from there, it should be moved up, yeah. I think, not just at the bullet point, and I apologize because I didn't see that piece of the sentence. But, because the rest of it is all about how they have access to the parents have access to the library and to their student's account in general.
Okay. So we have some work to do on this one. So I would suggest when we get to this in the business meeting, we table it and bring it back
I think so.
next meeting.
Overall, are you okay with this, Ken? This is kind of in your wheelhouse. Okay.
Okay, we ready to move on to the next?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's, next up to talk about is revised policy GCBC staff supplementary pay plans and stipends.
Some of these things are a mouthful.
I know.
Yeah. So this policy is really just capturing, number one, some grant language that needs to exist in this policy to comply with some grants that we participate in. It also, we want to include the fact that we do have some grants or some stipends that we do include. We do offer vehicle stipends for people who do frequently travel the district instead of requiring people to track, oh, I traveled from Running Creek to Singing Hills and then Singing Hills to the high school and I've got to track my mileage. We do a flat vehicle stipend for people who frequently travel the district. And then for people who must use their cell phone for emergency purposes, we do a cell phone stipend. So those are not documented anywhere in policy. We've added it to this policy. And so that's what the changes are in this policy, is just formalizing that. As when those stipends are awarded, what they are. There's 2 different vehicle stipends for someone who travels frequently, who's constantly ping-ponging the district. There is 1 vehicle stipend for someone who has occasion to travel less frequently. There's a lesser vehicle stipend. And then for anyone who appears on our emergency contact list, who's a part of our emergency procedures, if we list their cell phone on the list, meaning that anyone could call them in an emergency, they earn a cell phone stipend in the district. And so that's how those are determined, and now that appears in this policy. So if you have any questions on that, I'm happy to take them, but we felt like it's pretty straightforward.
Can we explain that in the cell phone stipend, that have to be listed on the emergency list?
We can add that to there if that's helpful.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Just
Yeah.
because any teacher could be like, well, I have to have my cell phone
Yeah.
in case of the, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And-
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
we
then
can
everybody
add,
has
we
live
can add
spots,
that
so we don't
language.
want that.
Right,
to
that's
be-
what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
Everybody can say, oh, I get
Yeah.
a cell phone stipend
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
have live spot, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's people are, have to be called after hours because of emergencies, people who need to respond because of an instant command structure, so we can add that language, so.
So
Yeah.
does the stipend cover the cost of the phone, or is that
It's
just
just
a portion?
it's contribute towards the
Okay.
cell phone bill, it's not covering the cost, it's a flat $40 stipend, so.
Out of curiosity, do you have any teachers that don't have cell phones?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay,
In the-
so we'll add that, and between our breaks, I'll find where to put that and bring that back at the next, when we look at that again.
On the, this is gonna sound a little silly, but when we have, in the first paragraph, teachers may receive extra compensation or compensation points. I know
Mhm.
what that means and I
Mhm.
understand it. But then we've got the second paragraph, faculty members to appointed to extra compensation positions shall be recommended, yada, yada. So, does this extra compensation position, does this include points and the monetary compensation?
Yeah, it's typically one or the other.
Yeah, but I guess, recommended by the superintendent and approved by the board, I guess, especially the approved by the board. Do we really want to approve everybody who's like an example that I have is, I'm on the Elizabeth Education Foundation.
Mhm.
And there are teachers who are on there, and I think we're gonna have another one in
Mhm.
addition to the one that's
Mhm.
on there now. So they get points for that.
Yeah.
I don't think that we as a board need to say, yes, you get extra points because you're going to EEF meetings.
Points are approved by the license compensation, so if this says you're approving points, that would be
Well, and that's, I
incorrect.
guess, my question is, do we
Yeah.
need to clarify this a titch?
You
Because,
approve compensation, so anyone who would earn additional compensation has to come to the board.
so, I guess, can we throw in the word monetary compensation?
Yeah.
Because we do call the points also compensation
Oh, okay.
points. So maybe compensation dollars or monetary compensation or something, just to make them, distinct, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, in the first paragraph, and then extra monetary compensation.
Okay.
Or something. Just throw that word in
Okay,
a couple places.
I see what you're, yeah.
Yeah, just
We
for
can-
clarity.
Yeah,
With the title, does the title still
Oh,
make the distinction
supplementary
clear?
pay or compensation.
Oh.
Yeah, well, there's, supplementary pay.
Cause you think like on your spreadsheets, I send you the extra duty.
Yeah,
That's an example, I would say, of
Yeah.
compensation pay,
yeah.
is those extra duty assignments, which you're approving
Mhm.
that
But
way.
we don't approve the points.
No,
Yeah, that's, we may need to actually take this back and clean that up. I honestly didn't even dawn on me that we mix points in here.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
mix- And points fit in here, but
They
that.
fit, but they just need clarity, you know.
Yeah,
They-
we may need to.
That's
we
why it's a
may need to
first
work on
reading.
this, yeah.
Right, exactly. And
So-
then on the, in the purple, the one staff is paid at the listed hourly rate, at the end it says pre-approved and communicated by administrator/budget. Is there supposed to be another word after budget?
I don't see where purple is.
Well, I have it in purple.
So it's
How come I got lucky? I
It's
don't
the
know.
bullet points?
You're running
It's,
low on
it's
ink.
a bullet, yeah, it's a bullet point. It was added in red, but then the language on mine is purple, but, staff is paid, is the 1, 2, 3, 4,
At the
fourth
listed
one.
hourly
And,
rate.
And then at the end of that, it says communicated by administrator/budget. And it just seems like a word is
Yeah.
missing.
I don't know where that came from.
Specific.
Okay.
So there's not a lot.
This
but-
one I think we need to take back and make sure we, points don't come to the board, they go to their respective compensation committees, classified compensation or licensed compensation, because they are the ones to ensure that points are consistent. And we don't wanna get the board to have to be over that,
No, I didn't think-
unless you want to, and I don't think you
No,
want to.
that's why I said
So
I
I
wouldn't.
think we need to clarify this, and so my suggestion would be that we'll remove this, and clean that up and bring that back to you in October. So, thank you.
Okay. So we're done with that one? All right, next up, let's talk about our new policy, JLIF, which is related to service animals.
So, service animals, this is a policy that many districts are adopting. There's a lot of controversy with allergies to animals, fear of animals, et cetera, in districts. Therapy dogs, therapy animals have created challenges not only for insurance companies, but also for individuals who have allergies specifically to certain types of animals, as well as fear of certain types of animals. And so this policy is actually a policy template that many districts have adopted. This permits, obviously, service animals, which by federal law we must permit. If someone has a service animal because of they're diabetic, they require a sight dog to help with loss of sight, et cetera, that is permitted in the district, and that will be permitted. Federal law requires it. It does not permit therapy animals unless it is goes through an approval process. That therapy animal has to be trained. It has to actually have an appropriate insurance coverage. Our insurance policy will not cover a therapy animal from somebody else. So we have had situations where someone has wanted to bring their therapy animal in. We've had an employee who wanted to bring their therapy dog in. The dog has defecated in a preschool classroom, has been told that the preschoolers can't touch the dog. I mean, those types of situations that are completely unacceptable. That's not acceptable in a classroom. This policy we feel like is critical so that we can be very clear that therapy animals only under certain circumstances are permitted. We recognize that in a special education classroom there is value to a therapy animal visiting. We will require that go through an approval process, meaning that the therapy handler has appropriate training. The parents are made aware in advance. The parents will know, hey, on Thursday at 10 o'clock, a therapy dog will visit the classroom. Parents will know that if that's something they'd rather their child not participate in, they can opt out, that we can provide an alternate activity. So those are the types of things that we go through. That's why there's an approval process. Not that we're going to say all therapy animals are not permitted, but that there would be a requirement. We have had situations also where we have had some exotic animals that have, teachers have desired to have in the classroom, that have created fear in students. We've had students who have not wanted to be in that classroom because of that fear. That has caused learning challenges for students who don't want to be in the classroom. And so this also requires that those are not permitted. Now, again, there's an approval process. For instance, preschool does require a living animal. That is actually required in preschool classrooms. So fish are a great animal for preschool classrooms. They are serene, they provide calming. There are other animals that are permitted in classrooms. Chicks, there are units where children watch chicks hatch. They watch that life cycle. That's permitted, but they come, they're observed, and then they're gone. So we're really trying to get away from this. I'm going to have my 3 snakes in the back of the classroom that might cause fear for students. I'm going to keep them there all year, and the custodians are going to take care of them over the summer. We're trying to move away from that to, I'm going to bring an animal in because it's an animal we're studying, we're going to observe it, we're going to learn from it, and then that animal's going to go home. And so that's really what this policy is trying to move us to, is animals have a purpose, they have a place, but they're just not going to become a fixture in our classroom where there is fear, where there is creating some discomfort for specific children. And that's a policy that we're bringing to you tonight for first reading, and if you have no concern, potentially adoption. We've worked through a number of situations in the district. You had a teacher approach you. We've worked through with her, I think, a very satisfactory situation where her animals will come in for certain units. She's very happy, her kids are happy that her animals will have a place in her classroom, just won't stay in her classroom throughout the year. And so, again, this isn't to be a Scrooge and say no animals ever, but just to find a happy medium so children find comfort and they're part of the curriculum. Exactly.
So I have a question. This policy is about service animals. Is it about prohibiting other animals, or simply saying that we're going to follow the law and this is our policy with regard to service animals?
Actually, you know what? Probably the title could say service animals. It probably should say animals in the classroom, or animals in schools.
We need to add more, I think.
Yeah.
But every paragraph specifically references service
Right.
animals.
So this doesn't seem to be addressing animals in the classroom, but service animals.
I mean, this is important, but I also think we need to add another section to it that's all about animals in the classroom for teaching purposes. Because this really doesn't
actually, this
address that.
did in other districts. I'm trying to, let me find exactly.
There's that service animals do not include animals used for emotional support,
Or animals
like
used.
choke, nor animals used for protection. And then I thought you added a part.
Yeah, I thought there was a part, but I don't think the title captured it.
So basically talks about what's permitted, but
Well-
not what is not permitted.
Right, yeah, so it defines what a service animal is, and says how our policies will revolve around a service animal, but all that means is that a snake isn't a service animal.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't really apply.
And in
Yeah.
fact, it defines
Snakes.
service animal as a dog that has been trained to do work or perform tasks. And other species of animals apart from dogs, trained or untrained, are not service animals. So this is definitively
Yeah.
About
service
service.
animals. And
Okay.
this is not classroom animals at all.
You go to the 3rd paragraph, though, that's where you covered it, Dan. Other
Yeah.
That's what I was
species of
Other
animals
species of
apart-
animals apart from dogs, whether wild or domestic, trained or untrained, are not defined as service animals, will not be permitted in district schools.
Well, that doesn't
But
seem to
that's-
reflect what you were talking about
Yeah.
though, just now.
Yeah, I think that's where it's captured, but maybe we do need to be more clear.
So if we are
and then-
gonna allow other animals to come in for certain,
Unless specifically approved by the superintendent.
Okay.
And so I think we need to change the title, and we probably need to be clearer in that paragraph.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it
I mean,
needs really
yeah,
a whole section.
Yeah,
of-
if you section it off, right,
Classroom
service
animals.
animals and then class,
And
you know,
then-
or
then
teaching
animals
other
in the
animals
classroom.
Because
Yeah.
it really should be a little bit more clear. I mean, in my opinion, I would want to know that, you know, if we're doing a chapter on chicks hatching, that's something that, you know, I could, as a
Yeah.
teacher,
Yeah.
go and petition the superintendent
Sure.
for,
Sure.
or if it's legally required,
Yeah.
like the preschool.
Well, and
That we're
this
doing
may
that.
need a JLIF E as a form to request, something
Yeah.
like that. So, so maybe we need a subsection. So maybe this needs to be service animals / animals in our schools, animals in schools, have a subsection that might include more information in the third paragraph. So again, maybe we just need to further. This is a policy when you call our legal firm and say we're having concerns, we have parents who are concerned about allergies. This is the policy they'll
And I think
recommend
it's a
to us.
great policy for regarding service
Yeah.
animals. I think
Yeah.
it's really, really
Yeah.
good for that. It covers a lot of stuff. And I
This is
think
a
it's really
policy
good.
they'll point to say this is a policy
Yeah.
that says no other animals are permitted in your school.
Yeah.
But I agree, it doesn't necessarily capture that, so I think
Which wouldn't
rewording
even
it.
be consistent with what you said, the
Yeah.
law
Yeah.
is for like
Yeah.
preschool,
And
things
a
like
line
that.
or small
Yeah.
paragraph.
And I do wanna add,
Others prohibited.
Dan, that I feel like when we're talking about that there could be classes, let's say there's, STEM related classes, where that, it might be a good idea to have, and in fact, I think when I was doing visits, Singing Hills has a classroom where they have a variety of different animals inside their, I think it was their study room. And I mean, it was the most popular classroom for sure at back to school night. And all the kids wanted to show their parents the
right.
animals that they have in the classroom. I think there was a hamster. So there were some other types
Sure.
of animals
Sure,
that I would hate to see all of that
Absolutely.
just X'd from
Absolutely.
the classroom.
agreed,
Especially if it's that type of a class where it's not
Agreed.
necessarily distraction, but it's part of the learning.
right,
So.
right, I would agree. Yeah, and again, that's the purpose of this policy is not to say we're clearing our classrooms of animals.
Yeah, you're trying to give limits,
We're
right?
trying to provide limits.
Yes.
Again, in some situations, we've had the only teacher who teaches a subject who has animals that has
Sure.
created fear for students. We've created a situation where that child has no options.
And I do like the
and
idea
that's the
of there being a
challenge.
process by which animals are approved to be in
Right.
the classroom
Exactly.
versus just
Yeah.
living in the classroom and
Yeah.
nobody knows about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Except for those who are in the classroom every
Exactly.
day. So it makes sense to me that we would have some type of a form or something like
Yeah.
that, so that if a teacher wanted to do that, they could just get
Yeah.
explicit permission
Yeah.
from you.
Let me, I'd like to take this back, modify to be service animals and animals in schools, break it into segments, and then I'd like to bring either an exhibit or a regulation that would provide staff an opportunity or a forum that they could also make requests, so that way it's clear as well, so.
I was thinking on the back page, the paragraph that starts, if in the judgment of the building principal, yada, yada. It says, if the animal has been misrepresented as a service animal, that it has training, all that stuff, the matter shall be immediately reported to local law enforcement. That seems a little extreme.
I will
Law
say,
enforcement
we've had
or-
situations, I've been in districts where a service animal has bit,
I understand that,
yeah.
for sure,
and,
but, I don't know.
I mean, if a service animal
If it's out of
creates
control,
harm
I can see
to
that definitely.
other children,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
becomes a law
I don't know, it
enforcement.
just seemed like
Escalating it fast.
escalating it fast, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. So, I don't know, it just,
Yeah.
with the option to report to law enforcement or, shall be, I don't know, something, but it just seems like law enforcement as the first resort is a bit extreme to me.
Okay. All right, some work on this one.
We may or may not have anything to do in it.
Yeah, I know, yeah, exactly.
Well,
And we're way behind, so.
I was gonna say, I clearly misjudged the time on this agenda.
so who is the, I guess I'm
I am. It's gonna be- it's
unclear
gonna
who's the
start
final
to turn.
authority here. Does it always have to come to you, or does it?
In this particular policy, I think the key is you want somebody who's gonna be a consistent arbiter. You don't
Okay.
want, if every principal is making that decision, you may have one principal who allows every animal, and you may have another principal who allows none. So I think you're always looking for it in a small district. In a larger district, it could be the supervisor or principals, it could be, I think it's, unfortunately, in a small district, it typically will fall to the superintendent, but
Well, I mean,
it
you know
doesn't have to
everything,
be.
so.
No, it can't. So, yeah, I think, again, in the small, in a larger district, it would not be the superintendent, but, yeah.
Okay. Good debate. All right, next up, we're gonna talk about our revised policy BEDB, which is our agenda. So basically, the goal of this is to keep public comments relevant to the policies and items being discussed on the agenda. Also helps us keep our focus on relevant educational topics. So basically, it was revised to match our updated public participation policy. So, oh, go ahead. So when you look at this, when we're looking at our format, we have our agenda format, which is our business session, and we have public comments, and we're gonna have our business session because we're combining the meetings. So when we're combining the meetings, we're going to have, public comments in the business session relevant to action or discussion items on that meeting's agenda. And then in the working session, we're going to have, public comment, and that's, again, only when no business session follows the meeting. So we always start out with, when we're having these combined meetings, we start out with a working session. And,
This, tonight is the perfect
Yeah.
example of this,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
because public comment during this discussion
Mhm.
period of these things that we're
Mhm.
just working out language,
mhm,
that would be, we would never get anything done there. I mean, honestly, but then knowing that those would then go
Mhm.
into the next session.
yeah, so.
Then
Mhm.
of course, that's good, so.
So when we have these combined, when we have the combined, there's not going to be public comment like we didn't have public comment in this first session. But in the second session, which would be the business session, we're gonna have 2 public comments. So we're gonna have, kind of in the regular area where we have our board member reports and then we have our public comments. That public comment is gonna be relevant to action or discussion items on our agenda. And then that'll help with the flow. And then at the end, there'll be another opportunity for a public comment that is basically any relevant education topic. So we kind of break it out into 2 to kind of help the flow.
I like
And,
that.
and when there's times we have 2 meetings a month, then we'll have public comment at the working session, and then we'll have public comment at the business session.
Yeah.
So technically, we have,
More public comment.
Pretty
Expanding
much.
public comment.
yeah,
Well, and I would add too that at the county level, when the Board of County Commissioners or the Planning Commission, when they have working sessions, they don't even offer public comment.
Mhm.
It's only when you're actually in a meeting for a land use application.
We changed that.
Or for other
Yeah.
things, so I think it's very favorable that this school board allows for public comment during working sessions when we don't follow with business.
Mhm.
So.
so in the combined meeting, we have the same amount of public comment that we would have in a month. We just have it in one session.
And each of those times is 30 minutes, up
Yeah.
to 30 minutes, 3
Yeah.
minutes per person.
Mhm.
So, any further discussion on that one?
Well, and actually, I think even on our agenda,
Mhm.
or on our schedule, we changed most of the 2 meeting months
Mhm.
to be business sessions. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
what I was
even
thinking
sure.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even sure, I mean, in the rare occasion we would
Mhm.
add one or do something,
Mhm.
you would have that.
Mhm.
But I think you're almost always gonna have public comment,
Yeah.
no matter the meeting,
Yeah.
Exactly.
except for,
So, yeah, except for like
Nights
in
like
this
tonight,
half of
yeah.
tonight, yeah.
Okay, so then, next up, we're also gonna be looking at revised policy BEDH, which is public participation at school board meetings. So, basically, on this one, we are,
Just basically capturing that there's gonna be 2.
yeah, capturing that there's gonna be 2, and then we also do a little bit of prioritization as well.
And this is new, that you may end a speaker's comments at any time, which has always been true.
Mhm.
It just was never written, like you've always had that ability to
Yeah.
say, no, we're not gonna talk about that subject.
Well, we have
Or
our-
a person, or,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
yep.
And I think our form, does our form
Public comment form says
Say-
that.
say that, you
You
know,
can't
no,
say
you,
anything.
you shouldn't talk about people specifically and stuff, this is not
Right.
the form for that. So I don't know if that should go into this policy too, a statement about, public comments shall not contain references against specific individuals.
I think it does.
Does it say it in here?
I wanna say, let me look. I think when it talks about executive session, where is that? Right before that, speakers may offer such criticism of school operations or programs as concern them, but are encouraged to exercise their speech rights responsibly. The board encourages the discussion of all personnel matters
Yes.
to be conducted in
Mhm.
executive session, meaning that's something the board would discuss in executive session, not with public.
I guess I think I did see that, and but I guess in some ways, it's like, an executive session is not gonna be something that the public will be in.
No.
No.
So they're not gonna know,
It can be, if
they're-
somebody had a complaint about
well, that they wanted,
someone in
yeah.
particular, you,
Public,
they
yeah,
could
that's true.
ask you to speak to you in executive
Right.
session.
But, I mean, those are, generally, it would be a personnel issue we knew something about, but if someone were to come up and do public comments and say, Mary Powell was just being a jackass, you know, that would be
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
we wouldn't want.
We would,
Correct,
we would say
correct.
no,
We
and
would
that's
say
when
no.
the
Yeah.
chair
But that's-
reserves
Yeah.
the right.
Yeah, and so
Mhm.
that, I guess, is something I was
Yeah.
thinking, maybe a statement of just
Yeah.
general public comments,
Yeah.
naming individuals with disparaging comments, well, really anyway.
Right.
I don't know, I guess if you're
Yeah.
gonna say Mary
Agreed.
Powell is a wonderful person, I would let you say that, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know if there's just something we need to say with regard to that.
And I can add something
Mhm.
there.
And then, I wondered also if we should put in here, and I think this is also in the form, but, just a reminder that the public shall be aware that the board will not engage in dialogue with them during public comments. I wondered if we should put that in here too.
Well, and I think that's what this is supposed to mean, members of the public will not be recognized by the president during board
Oh,
meetings
yeah.
except as noted in this policy.
Okay, there you go.
And maybe that needs to be more clear. I will say, I think we should adopt them at the same time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so too.
That way they match.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
we, otherwise we
Otherwise
would
we'll
be
have to-
doing a different practice than what the agenda would
Mhm.
state.
No, I think that's a good idea.
Is that, if you're not adopting?
And I think it's pretty straightforward. And this is where it talks about what I just spoke about. So for the first 30 minutes, public comment section of the meeting, all comments must be relevant to the action or discussion items on that meeting's agenda. To ensure that we hear from a variety of participants in board meetings, priority should be given to speakers who have not addressed the board publicly within the prior month. Speakers should be further prioritized as follows. The first 10 slots as needed, reserved for ESD students, parents, legal guardians of active ESD students and ESD staff. And then district residents or district taxpayers regardless of residence and all others. And then the second public comment section, again, shall not exceed 30 minutes, but it will consist of any relevant education topic in whatever order the chair deems appropriate. And the chair may use discretion in allowing up to 3 minute comments, so long as the second public comment section of the meeting does not last more than 30 minutes. So it's really gonna be dependent on how many people we have show up, if we have to prioritize.
And
it.
rarely we have to.
Yeah, rarely we have to, but
Yeah.
as a CYA got it in a policy.
Mhm.
So any.
So my only concern would be if you have, you know, a teacher or a student or a family who does have a concern that they wanted to bring, it would be hard for them to know what time to show up, because they wouldn't be, right, if it's not on topic,
Mhm.
then they can't speak at the beginning of the meeting, so then they will have to sit for the entirety of the meeting in order to give that public comment. And I understand the desire to want to put comments related to, particularly if we have a lot of speakers,
Mhm.
to put comments related to the subject matter at hand in the meeting
Mhm.
first, as we're considering. But I also worry that it might discourage students or other families who might have something that they want to share with us. Because to sit here for 2 hours is it's a big ask for a student or for anyone else who might have something to say to our board. So I wonder if there might be some discretion, for example, if we didn't have any public comments on any agenda items that day, but we did have people who signed up to speak about something else, that we might have a courtesy to be able to let them speak at the beginning so they don't have to sit here for 2 hours before they can give public comment.
I think that's a good option.
Yeah, that's a good
I
I would just prefer to have more open lines of communication so that if folks
Yeah.
do have some concerns, they can share them with us.
And we can always do that based upon volume.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, I look at it, if we're going to be discussing all of these items and we have public comment first, it's good to hear that before
Sure.
we start getting into the meat of the meeting and talking about, the different policies, to get people's input on those.
Yes.
So that was kind of the purpose of this, was to make sure that we can hear public comment relevant to the subjects that we're gonna be talking about. And then anything that's really education related but not related to the content of the meeting gets talked about at the end.
Yeah.
Kinda like new
I will comment,
business.
so I'm just gonna,
Mhm.
I'll wait here as long as I need to
Yeah.
to make sure
Yeah,
that they're.
I mean, it's
heard.
really like new business. Anything
Mhm.
that's not on your agenda is new business, and so new business happens at the end of the meeting, and that's when you would take comments on things that aren't scheduled on your meeting. So I will say that the beauty of our meetings are we don't go 4 hours. Districts who adopt this policy typically are like 11 o'clock at night is
Mhm.
when that
Yeah.
comes up. And so we're fortunate, and our meetings are never that long, so I think our latest meeting has been 8:30, so
Yeah,
that's,
but we're
yeah.
venturing into new territory
Yeah,
in
no,
that,
it is,
so.
yeah, definitely, yeah.
So it doesn't
It
even
is.
see how it works, it doesn't have to stay that way, but I know when we've done things like closing Frontier, everyone who lined up to do public comment, it was about Frontier, nothing on necessarily the
Mhm.
agenda. So if there's something going on in our district that's popular,
Mhm.
then the people who wanna come might not get priority to talk about the stuff on the agenda, which I think is
Yeah.
what you were saying.
Yeah, they might not get an opportunity, they might not get the opportunity to speak because everybody has come to talk about something that's off topic and.
I think your compromise is good, though,
Mhm.
is they
Yeah.
submit at the beginning, we
Mhm.
see, okay, there's no one on any of the topics,
Yeah.
but there's 2 on non-topics.
Mhm.
Take them at the beginning because we can.
Yeah, I think that errs on the side of goodwill
Yeah,
to
I agree.
parents and community members and students who might wanna speak
Mhm.
with us.
Yeah.
And if we can just prioritize and see, we don't even have enough speakers to fill up 30 minutes
Yeah,
of time.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, let's go
Exactly.
ahead and give
Exactly.
everyone public
Yeah,
comment at
I
the
like
beginning,
that.
so no one has to wait.
Yeah.
I do like that.
So I could add something underneath that second public comment section that says, well, actually, it might be better under the slot, under the bullets on each. I could put, under the first 3 bullets, if time allows, second public comment may move up to that, something, if
Mhm.
time allows.
Yeah, and,
That would-
and again, if all of the public comment takes place in the first, in the first portion of the meeting, then there would be no need for a
The
second,
second one.
Right.
because you sign up at the beginning.
Yeah, you still, everybody has to sign up for either time frame.
Mhm.
You still have to submit
Yeah.
at the beginning of the meeting,
Mhm.
right, at the beginning of the
Before it
business.
starts.
Yeah.
Just
Before it
typically
Before it starts, yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of schools only let you talk if it's about
Mhm.
what's on the agenda.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I think a lot of policies don't give the option to just come speak on whatever you want, like we do.
Education related,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think that makes
So I
sense,
think
if
that
time
is a-
allows.
It's a
Mhm.
bonus, and
Yep.
if time allows, I like that.
Second
that.
public comment
That's a
will be
good idea.
moved up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then again, if we're full, then, and we have done this in the past, we're just putting it in writing,
Mhm.
but we prioritize.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll kinda edit the form we have right now
Okay.
to match this,
Okay.
Mhm.
cause I don't think it reads exactly like this.
Mhm.
It's like, are you a resident, are you not a resident?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good.
So So is this one we want to, do we want to bring these two back at the next meeting, or are we comfortable?
I just need to
Okay,
solidify the exact wording we want,
Okay.
if we're gonna approve it with changes.
okay.
So if time allows, second public comment will be moved. Will be, that sounds good, if time allows, second public comment will be
If the-
allowed during first public, I'm trying to think of the right words. Someone help.
We can brainstorm during our brief break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
between-
Okay. So with that, this ends our working session. Any new business? Okay. So the business meeting's gonna follow this at, it was to be 7 PM. So at this point, do we wanna take a break for
Just a couple of minutes. and-
Yeah.
5 minutes? So we'll pick it up at 8:50. Okay.
So it's adjourned at 7:45.
Five.
Yep, 7:45.
Yeah.
No one's turning in yet, they have this
Okay.
time to turn.
Okay, it is 7:53 a.m. and it's Tuesday. PM.
Sorry, feels like it. I know. Been here all night.
Okay, it is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, and I call this business meeting of the Elizabeth School District Board of Education to order at 7:53 p.m. Can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Here.
Director Fletcher,
Present.
Director Hunt,
Here?
Director Olson,
Here.
Director Powell.
Still here. I just had to, you know.
Okay, so this is gonna be a long one. Get your typing hands ready. So I've got a couple of amendments to this amended agenda. So, I move to further amend this business meeting agenda for September 23rd, 2025 to remove agenda items 8.4, 8.5, and 8.9. I also would like to, based upon the amount of time that we've gone over already, move the order around, and I want to move public comment after the approval of minutes. Move it up before communications.
Sounds good.
So can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Hunt,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Okay, I move that the board approve the board meeting minutes from August 26, 2025 as presented. Can I
Second.
get a second?
Second.
And any discussion on those? All right, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Hunt,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Okay, so we will go ahead and, based upon time, I know people have been waiting a while, we'll go ahead and start public comment. Okay, so first up, we have Michelle Gazinski. I was gonna say, you set the timer on your phone, so, but it's easier to see. Yeah, it's easier to see.
Yes.
Pause.
Yeah, I just turned it on.
Okay.
Oh, I got it.
Okay, you are up.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say, I think things are being too complicated. I think there's simple solutions to many of the things that you're discussing tonight. To expect parents to understand the difference and look at a working meeting versus a business meeting. I mean, does this feel efficient to you guys tonight? Where we just did one meeting and then we turn around and Dan has to cram, the superintendent and admin assistant needs to cram and editing all these things between one meeting to the next. It doesn't seem like it's efficient. I think spreading these meetings back out to every 2 weeks to maximize availability of you guys to parents for discussions, for checking email. What about unintended consequences? What about loopholes that you may not be considering, that may not be brought up right now, where somebody's at home watching the YouTube, screaming at the screen going, oh my gosh, because ostensibly you guys could have passed a first reading like an hour ago. You could be discussing this again and pass a second reading. And in one night, there's a new policy that just appeared in front of parents that wasn't brought to their attention because they didn't check the website every day. And if an agenda can be posted and a meeting can be held 24 hours later, that doesn't seem like you're fostering communication. It doesn't seem like it's efficient. though it may maximize your time, asking for 30 minutes twice a month. Just because other boards may not do it doesn't mean you don't have a choice. If you want parents to talk, if you want us here, facilitating that and making it easy and listening when we are here would be appreciated. That 2-week gap is critical for people to catch up, to understand, to discuss. And it doesn't matter what other districts do, what other boards do, what other people in our county do. This is your choice, to listen or to not listen. Secondarily, I do want to mention again in KEC, it also feels like you're overcomplicating things, leaving decisions about materials, and I'm not sure exactly which KEC, because that's confusing too, of the dash or the number. Leaving it up to parents to decide with the academic professionals. We don't need a board who may not be in tune with the academics actually going on in the district and in the classrooms right now. That leaving it to the parents and the teachers and those school administrators, it doesn't have to be complicated. That the board has the last vote on materials and information that's accessible to our kids, when it should be the parents and age appropriate. That's all that needs to be done. Thank you.
Okay. So next up, we have Mark Perna.
Time's up.
Oh, having a Marine Corps on me. Hi, I'm Mark Perna, and on September 30th, 2024, my son was attending Singing Hills Preschool, came home with a head injury. Now, he's a boy, so bruises aren't totally expected, but my son has autism level 2 with receptive and expressive language disorders, meaning that when other children are learning to write their names, he's fighting to develop the capacity for language, a capacity that's non-existent when he's in pain. My wife, Amber, wrote to his teachers immediately. I was wondering if you know what happened to my son's forehead today at school. It's hard to understand the story he's telling me. But it wasn't hard to understand the story our neighbor told us that afternoon. He said, "Did you know that your son bit mine today at school?" And went on to say they signed an incident form about it. Well, we didn't get an incident form. The teacher admitted that yes, our child exhibited a new worrying behavior due to his dysregulation in class, and they did not plan on mentioning this to us. On October 3rd, my wife sent the lead preschool teacher a message. "I'd really like to know what's going on because earlier this week, my son came home with a big bump on his head, an abrasion, and a bloody nose, and nothing was said to me until I inquired about it." Those symptoms are consistent with a concussion. And after that, institutional silence was the patterned response to further inquiry. One can only assume that the reason we didn't get an incident report was that after the bite, something happened, my son was injured, and the staff didn't report it. And my son can't speak it, and they took advantage. So imagine my surprise when I discovered this exact same pattern of incident and cover-up happened at Elizabeth Middle School. The district separated with 4 staff members months before my son's injury. 3 for failure to report suspected child abuse, but somehow the abuse itself, which was serious enough to fire people for not reporting to law enforcement, went unpunished. I wonder if this is the incident the superintendent referenced on August 25th of this year in an email response to my son's injury, quote, "When we investigate and question ahead of law enforcement and the DA's investigators, we have had situations where we negatively impact their outcome in a case." So, from the precipitous decline in test scores to violating the Colorado Open Meetings Law, and now refusing to release my son's educational records, which we are federally entitled to, it's clear that this district is suffering. And our children are waiting. They're waiting for us to rise up as parents and educators and as board members. It's time for parents in this community to rise up, demand better, those of you on YouTube, and show up. Our children deserve teachers who are empowered to speak up, leaders who are accountable, but above all, schools that keep them safe. Above all. Thank you.
Amber Perna.
Hello, I'm Amber Perna, and I'm here as a concerned mother in the district. For the past year, we've been quietly fighting for our son's safety, hoping the district would do the right thing. What we've experienced has revealed an uncomfortable truth, which is that parent rights are not being upheld in this district the way that families are led to believe. Families deserve honesty, accountability, and transparency, and the community deserves to know when these values are not being lived out. My son was 4 when he attended Singing Hills Preschool. He is mostly nonverbal. That means he cannot come home and tell us when he gets hurt or when something goes wrong at school. We rely 100% on staff, policies, and the district to keep him safe and to tell us the truth. But that didn't happen. On September 30th, Ronan came home with swelling on his forehead, an abrasion, and a bloody nose. No one called, no nurse assessment, no report, no investigation, nothing. That same day, he was also in a biting incident, and the other family was notified and given paperwork to sign while we were told nothing. Imagine the message that sends. Another child's safety mattered enough for their parent to be notified while our child's injury and his voice were erased. And it hasn't stopped there. Records have gone missing following a deputy's visit to the school, and emails about our son are being withheld from us. Instead of giving them under FERPA, as the law requires, the district insists they are core records, demanding nearly $300 and saying that they need to go to attorneys for review. Think about that, a public school spending taxpayer money to run a 4-year-old's records through lawyers, while his parents are told to pay up just to see their own child's information. And we cannot ignore the possibility that the very explanation of what happened to Ronan that day may be sitting in those emails. These are FERPA records, they are son's records, and no parent should ever have to fight like this to see them. The superintendent has said, I take my job seriously in ensuring that we operate in a transparent manner. But when it came to our son, transparency was denied, trust was broken, and mistakes were buried instead of acknowledged. We want full, unredacted access to our son's educational records, exactly what federal law already guarantees. These records belong to Ronan and to us as his parents. We should not be forced to pay hundreds of dollars, nor should lawyers be reviewing and redacting our child's information before it's handed to us. This does not build trust, it shuts parents out. Families like ours should not be silenced for raising hard truths. We should be heard. Thank you. I also have some information for y'all. And I did prefer to personally hand this all out to everyone.
Okay.
If I may.
Yeah.
I certainly I recognize the challenge in this situation, and I appreciate the Pernas coming tonight. This is a challenging situation, and while I can't respond to much of what's been shared, this situation has been investigated by the Elbert County Sheriff's Office. It was offered to the 23rd Judicial District, and we did investigate to the best of our ability 11 months after it was reported to me. Unfortunately, the records that are being requested do involve other children, and that's why they have to be reviewed, because it would be releasing information on potentially other children. When we search email records, it could involve other children's emails, because when we search email records, it potentially will pick up emails from other children and other parents. And so that's why they must be reviewed, to be redacted, to ensure that we not release emails that belong to other children. So unfortunately, it's not as easy of a process to say every email we search is guaranteed to only involve the one particular child. And so, we have to ensure not only the protection of the one child, but every child in the district, and therefore it requires that we ensure that those are reviewed legally to ensure that they're released. This is a very challenging situation, and I recognize the difficulty the Pernas have experienced. And again, we have cooperated with law enforcement. We've cooperated with all of the authorities on this matter, and certainly regret that we're in the situation that we're in.
Okay, Marty, you've been waiting so patiently.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to give you guys an update on technology, everybody's favorite subject. I hope not too many eyes glaze over. I know you always will. Kind of like my wife when I talk to her about technology. So let me bring up I just have a short slide show for you guys. One of the things I wanted to update you on is some personnel changes in our department. As most of you know, we had a longstanding employee, Mike Scobie, who's been in the district for 25 years, retired this past year. Sorely missed, had a lot of institutional knowledge within him, and so he's been back on a part-time basis to help us out transition. So in lieu of, because of his retirement, we've made some changes in our department. The biggest of which is we've promoted one of our tech support specialists who's been in the district for, I think Sam's been in the district for 9 years now, maybe eight years. Promoted him to network administrator. And so that opened up a spot. And then we also moved Seth Ardrey, who's been here for 7 years, from a tech support specialist into a tech support coordinator position, which requires more added responsibility, one of which is key is to be the backup for a network admin if myself or Sam aren't available. And then Shelly Scobie, who's also been here for 25 years, no change in her position. She's our data quality coordinator. And then we hired one new employee this year to replace the open position that we had, Christian Garcia, who comes to us from Littleton Public Schools and also Douglas County, working in a similar position over there. So that's our changes in our position. We've had a pretty stable staff over the past 7 years. So this has been kind of a big change for us. It's been we've had not a lot of turnover over the past, like I said, 7 years. It's been pretty stable. So we're hoping that Christian will slot in pretty well, and so far I think he's doing a good job. Couple of things just to update you on. These are numbers that we have every year. Our Chromebook numbers pretty much stays the same, matches the number of students we have in the district, plus about 50 or so Chromebooks that we keep for checkout for kids who forget their Chromebooks, forget their Chromebooks and not take it to school, or there's a broken Chromebook and we have to loan one out. We have about 355 computers, laptops out there in the district, with about 200 for staff. There's about 150 projectors, LCD projectors in the classrooms, about 100 document cameras that our teachers use as well. We have about 40 servers district-wide. I would say about 10 of those, 10 to 15 are virtual, meaning they are not physical servers, they're software related. And they're for various things, for our authentication purposes, for several systems that we have to integrate with, et cetera. We have about 85 Wi-Fi access points. That's part of our network infrastructure. That's about 6 years old. And then we have about 55 network switches. Again, that's a core part of our network infrastructure. That's about 9 years old. New hardware this year, 390 Chromebooks. Generally speaking, about every summer we buy about 400 Chromebooks, plus or minus. This past summer it was about 390. And that's to essentially replace our 5-year-old Chromebooks that are in the district. We don't want our students to have more than a 5-year-old computer in their hands. That's for our district-wide one-to-one program. For those of you who don't know, we're a one-to-one district, meaning every student has a computer that they use. At the elementary level, they are classroom-based, cart-based, meaning they stay in the classroom and one is assigned per student. At the middle school and high school level, they're take-home programs, meaning they take their Chromebooks home with them. For our middle schoolers, they turn them in during the summer. For our high schoolers, we hand them Chromebooks in 9th grade, and that's their Chromebook until either they leave the district or they graduate, and then they get into the pool of our extra Chromebooks that we use for repairs and parts and usage for low usage classrooms like kindergarten and 1st grade. And then every year we'll also do a portion of refresh for all of our staff. Same refresh schedule, 5 years. We want to make sure our staff doesn't have a computer that they're using for their day-to-day work more than 5 years old. And so this year we had replaced 39 of those district-wide. And please stop me if you have any questions between each of these slides.
Are
I'd be
you
happy to
running
give you more.
across a lot of Windows 10 machines you're having to replace?
So Windows 10, some of you may know, have that's been expired essentially, end of life. And so we've pretty much got most of our machines off of Windows 10. There are a couple of machines out there that require Windows 10 because we have to use software that, the thing that I'm thinking about is the software that runs the marquee at the high school is old software that runs only on Windows 10 machines. And so we have to keep a special machine ready specifically for that purpose. I wanted to give you an update on security. Security is a big topic of conversation around a lot of school districts and towns and governments essentially in terms of what's been happening over the past few years with stories about districts getting hacked or information getting leaked, etc. This is something that the federal government put up back in 2022 from the Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security and Department of Justice and the Department of Health and Human Services that had basically 4 tenets or 4 steps to help mitigate security. And this is pretty basic kind of information that also would be similar from other organizations like ESD, which is the National Society for Technology Educators, those types of organizations. And that's to basically, there's a few things that they ask us to do, and so we've tried to follow these as we've gone through and revised our security policy. One is to enable multi-factor authentication. Another one is to use strong passwords and to make sure that our staff understands that. Recognize and report phishing for our staff, and then updating software, making sure we apply patches, etc. So as far as that goes, our policies, we've implemented multi-factor authentication for all staff members on our mission critical systems. Mission critical, I consider our Google, Skyward, and Infinite Campus. And so we use Google as a single sign-on for a lot of our systems. So there's a bunch of other systems here that I haven't listed that basically use Google as their sign-in. Just like you've seen in your own personal lives, if you've logged into some website and it'll ask you, do you want to use your Google account, do you want to use your Apple account, do you want to use your Facebook account? Kind of similar concept for us. We use our Google accounts as the single sign-on for most of these systems. We do a cybersecurity training for our entire staff. We started that 2 years ago. Previously, we've only done that for our new teachers as they come in. So any new staff that we've hired during our orientation week that we usually have for our new staff, I would do security training, and then we wouldn't necessarily address it as a whole formally for staff. And so 2 years ago, we started doing it every year because we feel it's important to continue to educate our staff on kind of what the latest things that are happening out there and what we can do to protect ourselves as it comes to cybersecurity. And so we do that now every year during our convocation. If you guys were present at our convocation this year, you would have heard me talk for about 30 minutes to train people on how to recognize phishing and what to do for making sure multi-factor is enabled and all that good stuff.
Do you ever get anybody still clicking on links?
We still do, but then they remember our training and they'll email me and says, "Oh, Marty, I accidentally clicked on this link," and then we'll look at it that way. They've been very. I think the response has been very good because I get more emails now about things that are phishing attempt at emails, whereas 3 years ago I didn't. Now it's like, "Hey, Marty, I think this is a phishing email," and I may get that from 10 staff members because it's gone out there. And it's good for that to happen, especially for the ones who get it early. We have the ability to go in our system and then look for those emails and delete them out of people's inboxes even before they open them and look at them. But yeah, we're getting better. Our staff's getting better about reporting it and not clicking on some of those things.
Do you ever send any out as like a test?
That's what I was gonna say.
We haven't. We've looked into that. I know our CFO and Dan has asked me to look into that, and so there's a couple of companies out there. Obviously, there's costs involved, et cetera, and so we have to have the discussions about our budget and what that looks like. But yes, there are those. There's services out there that will do those phishing tests for you. Yeah.
Phishing tests.
Yeah.
Like we have like where I work, we have Know Before.
Know Before is one of the
mandatory training. They can tell
That's one of the ones I looked at. The issue is, I think, for us district, it's not a cheap product. And so I'm looking at, there's some other ones out there that are specifically catered for school districts. And so they try to trick you with like official looking software, right?
Yeah.
That's specific to school districts. Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, we are looking at that. Obviously, as budget allows, we can further educate our staff into being more diligent security partners. Software updates, that's another part of the good practice, and we do that by staff. We're always looking at patches. Our Chromebooks are auto updated, and so are our servers. We do Windows updates. We have those set for all of our staff computers. Now, they still have to allow it to update, so we do have to remind staff sometimes to say, hey, when you get the little indicator that says, update your computer, please don't continue to say, remind me later. Like, actually take some time to get that done. Current hardware, couple of things for the critical side of our network. Our firewall that we have currently is 9 years old, and will go end of life this November. Core switch, which is the network switch that all of our traffic goes through. Just as a quick thing, all of our network traffic comes into a main point of entry. So our ISP, our internet service provider, comes in, feeds through a firewall, and then the firewall goes to the core switch, and then that then gets distributed out. And so those are really key pieces of our security protocols in the district. And those two devices are at the end of life. But luckily, we have new hardware coming in. And during this fall break, we have what's called an NGFW, Next Generation Firewall. It has all the bells and whistles of all the security. I'm not going to go over those with you unless you really want me to tell you about them. FortiGate is the name of the company that we're going through. Our core switch, also same company, better integration with it. One of the main benefits too for this new switch and this new firewall is that it supports a bigger throughput. So our connection to the internet, I'm going to talk numbers here, is 5 gigabits. I don't know if you know how big that is or how small it is, depending on your relativeness, I guess. But because of our old hardware, we were tunneling and only using 1 gigabit of that. And that was okay for us 2-3 years ago, but as we've steadily gone more and more online into different things for our technology and our curriculum, we've been utilizing that 1 gigabit. So once we have this in place, now we're going to be using the full 5 gigabit. So hopefully that'll help improve some of our network and internet speeds as well. So those are kind of the more important kind of hardware pieces that we have. A couple other things that we've implemented in the past 6 months. We've gone to a new software filtering, web filtering software called Lightspeed. We're mandated by law to have some sort of filtering software for our students. Used to be called iBoss before. We were using a product called iBoss, and now we've moved to a newer product called Lightspeed. Has a little bit more, I think, granular ways for us to control. We feel that iBoss has been hindering us a little bit on our network in the past couple of years, and so we feel this is a better direction to take. We've also implemented CrowdStrike, which is a suite of security protocols, security systems that we've put onto our endpoint devices. It basically prevents malware. It does. It looks for viruses. It's a next-gen antivirus. It's called NGAV. And so that's something new this past 6 months that we've installed on all of our machines. So basically, once we have our new firewall in place, and along with CrowdStrike, we have multiple points of security checks from our traffic coming into the district and down to where it gets to on a staff person's laptop. So that's exciting for us to be able to have that in our district here in the next couple months. Steps to continue improving our security posture. There are still some of our systems out there that don't have two-factor turned on or multi-factor turned on, so we'll go through that and hopefully implement those this year. We'll continue to do our security awareness training for staff every year. That's something that I think is a non-negotiable, and we'll try to make sure that we're keeping everybody up to date every year for that. We're going to continue to audit user accounts on all of our systems for permissions validity, meaning giving them the least amount of privilege needed. So obviously a teacher should only have so much access and shouldn't have the same access as like an office staff member. or a registrar, or a principal who should, and that in turn, a principal should have the same access as like myself, et cetera, right? It's called least privilege concept for permissions. And so we're continuing to make sure that we're also performing that best practice in all of our systems. This is I had on my slide last year on Horizon. I crossed them off because we've met that. We're going to do that. Check, check. But this is what we want to start to plan for next year. Hardware priority replacements. The first priority is our 9-year-old network switches. Second priority, I don't know if we'll be able to do that if budget allows the same year, or we'll have to wait next year, but replace our 6-year-old Wi-Fi access points. I think we've got a couple more years left in that, so we don't have to necessarily do that right now, and wait for, as budget allows, for the following year to do that. And then look into the possibility of replacing our over-the-air connections to some of our sites. So if you didn't know, our connections from our internet to all of our locations are not in-ground, they are over the air. So internet comes in-ground fiber through essentially EMS, and from there, to get to RCE, there's 2 microwaves pointing at each other from the tower and the roof. And so the internet then gets fed through there.
Kind
And
of
then from,
throughput you get on that?
what's that?
What kind of throughput you get on that?
So that one is 500 gigabytes, I believe. Yeah, which is still, you know, still pretty okay for our running for our elementary school. And then from there we have wireless connections that then serves here, for example. We have a wireless connection that serves Frontier. From the middle school, we have a wireless connection that goes to a tower that's owned by South Metro Fire Rescue that we rent space from, that then points it again over to Singing Hills. So we have kind of like this thing going on. And so those would be the 2 places where I would look to see what fiber looks like. One of the good things about doing this way is that it was a one-time cost 10 years ago. You buy the equipment, and that's that. And so when you go to fiber and lease fiber in ground, we're looking at a monthly service, right? And so we're going to see what that looks like. Some of that is E-ratable. So one of the things I want to talk about, well, how do we fund some of these? So E-rate, if you're not familiar with that, it's a federal program that basically gives you discounts on some of these technology products. They have a long list of what you can and can't use E-rate dollars for. But basically, based on your free and reduced participation, you get a discount. For us as a district, generally our discount is between 50 and 60%. Generally, it depends on how many kids we have in participating in the National Free and Reduced Lunch Program. So, but basically, I would say 50%. So that would mean that if the monthly cost to get fiber to Running Creek is going to be $2,000, then per month, then we would get a 50% discount, and that'll be $1,000 a month. So that helps, but obviously $1,000 a month is still $1,000 a month, and that's $12,000 a year, where we didn't have to pay for anything over the air. So, and we do have to move to that because we were up on the roof of Running Creek, and it's line of sight, and so kind of looking at the tower, I see a tree that in a few years, you know, will be blocking our line of sight. Chainsaw, yeah.
There's some attenuation.
Yeah. We also have a housing, or a
Yes.
multi-story
So
housing complex.
that's happening here, and so we're already kind of looking at, well, what's kind of our temporary fix for that? We can route traffic to Frontier, for example, over the air, and then and then just put it over here. So yeah, a lot of different things to consider when we're looking at some of it. And that's one of the things too, I think, that not a lot of people realize when when they have their computer and it's oh, internet's down, and it's not as easy as it's the internet, internet's down again. It's the ISP, and where that might be true for us at the home, right? Because there's only maybe 2 points of failure between your laptop and where your internet goes out of your home. Here, there's like 10, 9, from their laptop to a switch, to the microwave, to the other microwave, to the microwave here, down to another switch, et cetera, et cetera. And so it is one of those things where sometimes it feels like whack-a-mole a little bit when we have some of those problems. But hopefully all these improvements we're doing now will help in that regard over the next couple of years. And that was it. I didn't see anybody yawn, so I think that was a good sign.
Oh, I get the yawns.
Any questions for me on anything topic? I know there's a lot more things I can cover when it comes to technology, but I thought these would be kind of the more important things that.
Well, I remember when you told us about those last year, that you were gonna do these and check the boxes, you're getting them done, and fall break, you'll have
Yeah,
two major things done.
and thank you for the board and for Dan for the support. Obviously, a lot of this stuff takes funding, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of those hidden things, I think, from my perspective, it's like, oh, technology is just technology. When you talk about facilities, everybody thinks about, you know, and yes, true, right? We want to have nice classrooms for our kids. We want to have a good, you know, and nobody thinks about the back end because it's kind of this hidden thing that just happens in the background.
It's
And
magic.
It's magic, and so those things. I mean, even just thinking about it at my house, I have access points. I'm a tech guy, so I'm like doing all kinds of things. But I know those access points that are going on 6 years now. And I have to think about budgeting our family dollars. So like, you know what, I should get those replaced soon. And it's the same thing here, but on a bigger scale. But I do thank the board for, you know, going through and approving some of these projects, and Dan and our new CFO for making sure that we future plan and put aside dollars for these needed infrastructure upgrades that we need to have happen.
And they are necessary because people think you can just run this old equipment forever, but
Yeah.
it becomes a security risk. You don't get
Yeah.
support, you
Right.
don't get updates.
Yeah.
When they're end of life, they're end of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And there's a couple of things, you know, strategies we could do. Our switches have been good because we picked the right switch. There's only 2 companies out there that basically have lifetime warranties on switches. That's Aruba/HP, and the other one is Ruckus. And so we have Aruba HP. And so anytime one of our switches went down, we were able to call them up. They sent us a new one. We popped it in place, you know, and so that's been good. And so it's also kind of maximizing your dollars. It's not just kind of, you know, you don't, like when we went out to bid for this, that was one of the things I considered, you know, whether that 9 years ago. Aruba has these lifetime warranties. This one came in at a lower bid, but their warranty was only, you know, 1 year, parts and labor. And so hopefully we can continue to do some of those things and be a little bit more creative in our purchase dollars when it comes to technology.
Well, and I think the more you plan, the easier it is for us. It becomes real easy for us to say yes. So,
Yeah, and we
because-
bring every inch of what we have out there.
Yeah, Marty does an amazing job with that, so.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your attention to detail there.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Thanks.
Next. I am here this evening to present not only our SPFs, but our CMAS data, as well as our beginning of the year data. So they kind of all fit together. So Jamie's gonna control the power over there. So if you'd move to the next slide, please, Jamie. Thank you. So this is the district performance framework. So we still are accredited. You should have copies of all of this in your binder.
Yeah,
That way you can
I'll
follow
need it.
along.
I'll need
Because
it.
if you're like, that's hard to read, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to move my chair if I gotta read that.
So you have an exact copy of this in your binder, so you can follow along there. So the first slide is on the district performance framework, and the district as a whole is accredited. We have 67.9 points out of 100, which is 0.1% drop from last year.
So do we have any reasoning for the drop?
I will dive into that. You'll see
All right.
evidence as to the drop as we go through,
Okay.
if you're okay with that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's move to the next one. So Running Creek, I start off with the enrollment number. So we're enrolled at 239 students. That was as of last Tuesday. We're tracking enrollment as we're coming up on October count. So that's the enrollment at that school as of last Tuesday. The next slide is Running Creek's school performance framework. You will see that they are on an improvement plan this year. They earned 50 points out of 100, which is a decrease of 11.2% from last year. And if we move on to the CMAS scores, which is the next slide in your deck, I've broken out the CMAS scores based on grade level and on subjects, so we'll focus on that. So third grade CMAS scores, students at Running Creek scored 28.2% of them scored meeting or exceeding expectations. And then fourth grade was at 17.9%. If I'm going too fast, please tell me to slow down. Okay, I figure you have it in front of you. And then.
And all this has been shared with?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
School leaders had this when it was initially released.
Okay.
And so they have had that.
Our new principal has it?
They
Okay.
do, and we've had conversations surrounding it already, and I know that she's shared it with their staff, and they've had conversations about it as well.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay. Is there any way to, I'll talk to you.
No, that's okay.
Well, just to go, I'd like to see their plan. Like,
Well, they are working on their unified improvement plan, so that's the plan that goes to the state, and so they're working on setting those goals right now, and then that will come to you for approval.
okay.
So.
Because I know Pauline probably has thoughts.
Oh, yes, she has lots
She
of
probably has a lot
thoughts.
of thoughts.
So in their unified improvement plan, we're focusing mostly, setting a reading goal, setting a math goal, and then having action steps to support that, so.
Okay.
So yes, we are already, even though this data wasn't released until just, recently, there's a lot of things that have to happen pretty quickly once the SPF comes out.
Yep.
Because then you have to do the UIP, it's due by the middle of October, so things are already moving and shaking.
Good.
So fifth grade CMAS EL reading scores are at 38.5%, or were at the end of last year. If we move on.
So these are all, I'm just
These
gonna
are all
clarify,
last year.
Last year's, thank you.
Last
I
year.
just wanna say
Yep.
that again and reiterate that.
So we take CMAS in April, so these are the scores from April. And of course, they don't get released until the middle to late part of July.
Yeah.
So,
I was pretty sure, but I just
Yep.
wanted to
Yep.
make sure everybody understood.
yep, thank you, I appreciate that. And then we move on to math. So third grade math scores at Running Creek, you had 28.2% of your students meeting or exceeding expectations. Fourth grade was at 10.7%. And then fifth grade, we were at 38.5%. And our science scores, fifth grade does take science, CMAS. We had 35.9% of our students scoring, meeting or exceeding expectations. So that's Running Creek's CMAS scores from April of this year, last school year.
If you recall, those of you who were on the board last year, we saw in iReady scores, we saw a dip. Obviously, we made some decisions on leadership at Running Creek, and so iReady is a strong correlative to CMAS. And so, obviously, with what we saw in the spring and the changes we made, some of this is not a surprise to us.
Yeah.
And so I think that's I think the changes that were made were necessary, and obviously now we need to recover, and we need to make sure that instruction is closing those gaps that formed last year.
So how did it get to April before we saw that there was this much lack of performance, should I say?
Yeah, the mid-year scores in Running Creek
iReady.
actually looked pretty good.
Mhm.
We had interventions that were taking place up until December. Running Creek, under their leadership, stopped interventions at December. They stopped performing interventions, and so we had students who were being intervened with, who were getting interventions.
That actually had made a lot of growth and were exited out of interventions,
Mhm.
but they were supposed to still be getting support in the classroom.
And
but-
whose decision was that?
Leadership.
Leadership, principals, principal?
How did we know intervention?
We found out after the fact.
And what, was there a reason ever that we knew of that happening?
In
They're all pitiful, but fourth grade is.
fourth
is
grade,
like,
if
holy
you
cow.
remember, there was one class, there's only 2 fourth grade classes. One of those classes had 3 or 4 different teachers in the classroom throughout the school year. We replaced the teacher at the, I think it was November, December timeframe, and then they had a long-term sub for a while. That person left. Then we had Jessica Henley, who was the dean of students, filling in for a while until we could hire somebody. So they actually had 4 teachers in that classroom throughout the school year. So that inconsistency kind of aggravated the problems.
When those kind of things happen, I mean, I know obviously when you have that much change, it's gonna affect things, but is there no plan for handoff to the next person that would help with this?
I think hiring decisions, hiring effectively, hiring, coaching, supporting new hires, all of that is important.
And that
And
support
so,
just wasn't
yeah,
really happening.
Yeah, so obviously, I
guess.
think.
I was being told things that weren't necessarily happening.
so.
Well, and to Mary's point, last year's 4th graders will be taking math again as this year's 5th
Yeah,
graders.
yeah.
Right.
Which
Yeah,
is
the
going
intensive
to be-
supports that are in place this year with interventions, with targeted supports, the plan in that building right now, the instruction that's taking place in that building, and encourage that we go there when we are able to go together. I think you'll see the intensity of instruction in that building right now is massive and needed to close that gap. So.
Yeah, that school's that's had a problem with leadership for many, many years. So I'm very confident in Paula and that she can get the job done.
Yep.
Colleen's doing a lot of hard work with,
Colleen.
that's okay.
Paula for short.
She's doing a lot of work with building culture, and the teachers are embracing, she's asking things of them that maybe they haven't been asked before, and I think there's a lot of buy-in into, our kids can do great things, and the teachers can do great things, and she's supporting them in that growth,
The
so.
use of data, the data discussions that are happening at the building, the adherence to curriculum in that building, again, as things that should happen are happening, and because they're happening now, the realization that teachers didn't receive those supports in the past are clearer now than obviously they were before. So again, we're confident in the support that's occurring now, and we see just the feedback from teachers in that building right now, and the supports that they're getting, the behavior. Mike had a chance to visit that building last week. The culture in that building is night and day.
Looked different, didn't it?
Well, and my concern would be, obviously, to see a number this low is very, problematic. But it also represents a lot of kids who didn't grasp concepts last year, that they've got to grasp this year and then achieve new concepts for 5th graders. So that's a lot
I
of
will
work.
also say this, I think the data may also be skewed from the culture in the building. So I'm not necessarily sure this data is representative because of the culture that existed in the building. I'm not sure that we actually captured the true ability of our students either. So I think there's a combination of issues. I think our beginning of the year data, which we had a deep data dive on Friday, and really analyzing where our students are, actually putting into plan, putting a plan into place for where our students are, where the gaps are, how our teachers are closing those gaps immediately now. I think that's more representative data of where our students are versus this. The culture that students took this test under, the behavior concerns that certainly we were aware of, that we were dealing with parents last year because of the culture in the classrooms, because of the concerns parents were expressing about the behaviors that were occurring. And we started a behavior program that right now may not be needed. We started a whole behavior program because of the concerns that parents were expressing about the culture in the building, that students' behaviors were so concerning that were interrupting the learning that was occurring in that class, in that building. So again, while this data is concerning, I'm also concerned it may not be a true representation of what students knew. It may be a representation of the
chaos.
Of the chaos.
Well, it was
or
at
the
a
lack of focus.
At the time that they took the assessment, took CMAS, it was after the announcement that Michael was leaving. And so that causes a little bit of discomfort, right, for students and for teachers. So I think that had a lot to do with it, so.
Did they already take iReady for this year?
Yes, we're getting ready to dive
Yeah,
into
we're
it.
about
Would you like to?
We're about to get to that, and that's
Yeah.
where that's the data I think is important to note, really where they are this year.
Yep.
And then, like I said, on Friday, all of our schools dived into their current beginning of the year data and began crafting plans.
Mary was
of
here
what
for
it
that.
was to do.
It was very interesting, very,
Yeah.
Yep.
it was really interesting.
Yeah, because this is time late data, right?
Yes,
This is
so
the
that's
This is
April.
unfortunately,
It's a
this-
diagnostic tool, but
I
it's
call
not-
this autopsy data. It's kind of last year data. The data we're about to look at is real data of what we can do now. We know what our students, where their
Yep.
gaps are and what we have to do.
Okay.
Okay, so if you flip to the next page, past the Running Creek, you'll get to the wonderful slide that should look like this, right? So this is Running Creek's beginning of the year iReady data for reading. This is kindergarten through 5th grade. So remember, iReady assesses for the end of the year. So we're assessing students on what they should know at the end of kindergarten, at the end of 1st grade, at the end of 5th grade. It sets the point of mastery, right, for the end of the school year. This is what we want our kids to know at the end of the year. It doesn't move, some assessments will move, like this is where we want you here at the beginning of the year, and this is where we want you at the middle of the year. This just tells you, this is where you need to be at the end of the year. So you expect to see a lot of students in the yellow where it says they're 1 year behind because they haven't been taught that information yet. So we want students in the yellow and the green area, okay? So if you look at the data we have right now, we have 24% of our students in the green, and we have 52% of our students that are ready for grade level instruction. They haven't been taught the kindergarten standards. They haven't been taught the 1st grade standards, right? So they're ready for instruction. They're ready for learning. And then we have 24% on the other end that are below grade level. So those are the students that are getting, targeted instruction. They may be getting take flight therapy. They're getting pulled out for reading intervention. Or during the WIN time, they're getting specific small group instruction from their classroom teacher. So this data is better looking than what we just looked at in CMAS. I'm excited to see what we're going to see at the middle of the year and the end of the year in regards to the growth we see. What we want to see is more of those yellow students moving into the green, right? And some of those red students, or a lot of those red students, moving either into the yellow or into the green. Okay. The next is a breakdown by grade level. So you can see the breakdown of students that are kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. Remember, yellow is okay at the beginning of the year. Yellow is okay because those are they haven't been taught the 2nd grade standards, so they're ready for learning. 5th grade, obviously, a little bit concerning with the number of students that are in the red. But again, we have take flight therapy groups going on. We started them last year in November. Yeah, almost a full year ago.
So we have take flight therapy groups going on with Angela Williams from Away with Words, as well as with Cindy Conyu, our literacy coordinator. And we also have really intensive instruction going on in intervention groups. But also, we've beefed up our Tier 1 instruction in our classrooms, which really is what we need. That's the general, the general education teacher teaching reading. We've beefed up what they're teaching to the kids as well, so.
Is direct instruction being part of it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And what you'll find a lot of times with the direct instruction, it comes naturally for elementary teachers. That's what elementary teachers typically do. It's not as natural so much for secondary teachers. So, but we really are keeping a close watch on that as well. So making sure that it is really specific instruction.
Our
So-
fifth grade is also small at Running Creek, so it's a class size of 16 and 17 students each. So really able to give some personalized instruction in that grade level. So that's actually helpful at Running Creek. So
Yeah, I mean, that grade 5 with that large a percentage, they should just cut out other things and
yeah,
just focus on reading.
a lot of focus on reading and math. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Those poor kids are headed to middle school next year,
Yeah.
and they need to.
Yeah,
Yep.
we've got ground to make up, and they're intentional about it.
Okay. So if we move on to the next slide, you're looking at the beginning of the year iReady data for math. This is kindergarten through 5th grade. Again, remember yellow's okay because they haven't been taught the standards yet to be able to meet mastery by the end of the year or for the end of the year assessment. So we have 12% of students that are already at the grade end of the year expectations, so they'll be pushed and extended. We have 62% of our kids that are ready for grade level expectations. That's great. And then we have 25% of our students that are below grade level, and we're working on making sure that we're teaching iReady core curriculum, so the iReady classroom math is being taught with fidelity, and we're making sure that our students are doing the personalized learning platform at least 30 to 50 minutes a day, per week, per subject.
And
So-
what is the personalized
So
learning?
when the student takes the diagnostic, this assessment, it sets a personalized learning plan for them based on what they do know and what they don't know. And so students will spend 30 to 50 minutes a week on math, learning the things that's a personalized plan for them based on what they already know.
It'll teach them concepts. It'll target them into concepts that they're lacking to try to fill those holes.
How does the teacher manage all these
The teach-
personalized plans?
It's computerized, so
That's
they
the
work.
That's the nice thing about this computerized program, because you couldn't ask a classroom teacher to figure out
No.
30 kids that 15 of them need this concept and 15 need that concept. So that's why the personalized learning platform is so important to be able to fill those gaps. So-
I kind of keep harping on this one point, but I was confused for so long, and I've heard other people being confused for so long. It is sort of unfortunate that so many pieces of this are called iReady.
Yes.
And before in years past, we didn't have the iReady curriculum, which we have now.
Yes.
But we did the iReady assessments.
Yes.
For a long time, I guess. And then this computerized thing, so that's the iReady.
Personalized learning.
Personalized learning. But they're all iReady, but they're 3 different pieces.
Yes.
And we didn't have the curriculum before, we have the curriculum now, and that's the direct instruction part that goes on.
Yes.
Then there's the online, what did you call it again?
Personalized learning.
Personalized, thank you. I'm obviously not getting that one.
No,
in my
we're
brain.
turning into pumpkins by now.
It is getting pumpkin time here pretty soon, but that, does help fill in the
Yes.
gaps. And then this assessment piece is so that they can get these data points. So just always remember.
There's 3 components. You
And
have
maybe
the
it's just my own confusion that I'm always, but I know that other people have been confused about that, so I just always want to make that point, that it is 3 separate components.
Yep. And not only does the diagnostic, the assessment, tell you where students are and sets the student on their trajectory for their personalized learning,
if a teacher, and they are doing this, they're digging into the data, they're able to see where maybe their classroom needs to focus on a certain concept, so they could spend some extra time filling in the gaps during that tier 1 instruction. So it's not just, oh, we did this test and we have the score. It's helping teachers to understand where their students are and where they need to focus their energies. So, other questions? We can move on to the next slide that breaks down the math scores by grade level.
So you're saying, if, for instance, that all the kids in the class don't seem to understand their 8 times tables,
then guess what they can focus on?
okay, then the teacher would go back and maybe rehash that. Okay.
Yep. There's a lot of valuable information within the diagnostic if you take the time to dig into it and look at your classroom, your students' scores and where their strengths are and where their gaps are. So, and one of the things we did on Friday, we did it with building leaders, so all the principals were here when we were digging into the data, but they're taking that information, how to dig into the data, and they're taking it back to their teachers to help them do it as well.
Good.
So, our biggest focus, and I think we learned this on Friday when we did the data dig, you know, you've got a certain percentage. We want students, when they're on their personalized learning platform, we want them to make their typical year's growth. But certain students can actually make a whole shift, like a whole year's or 2 years growth, if they do what they call a stretch growth. So it's pushing them a little bit further. You need to grow a little bit further, and you'll close that gap even more. Those students that can close that gap in a year, if they reach their stretch growth goal, those are the students we're really focusing attention on, because that's where we can get the biggest bang for the buck. Doesn't mean we're not focusing on the other ones, but those kids that could close that gap that quickly are the kids that everybody in the school needs to know and needs to be asking them, hey, how'd you do on your assessment, or how'd you do on, have you reached your goal yet? You know, having those conversations and making those relationships with those kids.
That's what was very interesting to see that, and you know, obviously I didn't, I was kind of watching somebody do it, but all of this data is by individual student. So they are digging in and they are seeing each individual student and identifying by name students who, based on their scores, are going to be ones that are going to be primed for doing a stretch goal, or, you know, you think it's just kind of a regular goal. But, and then, you know, specifically for those children, creating the program that will push them along. And like you said, they're all going to be, you know, nobody's ignored by any means. But certain students, by their scores, you can see that they would be primed for this stretch goal. And so it was kind of cool to see that and how they can be, you know, you can figure out who it is by these individual data scores.
You'll hear the term win time. All of our schools now have win time, which is what I need time. And so teachers are flooded with additional support, and so they'll break down, okay, these 10 kids need this instruction, these 5 need this, these 12 need that, and teachers will split up and say, okay, I'm going to teach that group this during win time, I'm going to teach that. And so that's a level of focus right now our teachers in each grade level have with their interventionist partners, to ensure that we're really, again, very direct and explicitly ensuring that students are filling those gaps, to make sure that we accelerate learning, because we have no choice right now. We've got to close those gaps.
This is what's going to really make the difference on the scores.
And it will continue throughout the whole school year. I can guarantee that this year. So, okay. Next is Singing Hills, if you're ready to move on. Their enrollment as of last Tuesday was at 385. They are still on a performance plan. Their scores did drop 2% from the 2024 SPF. Okay. And we'll move into their CMAS scores. So the Singing Hills ELA, so reading, right? Reading, writing. They had 50.7% of their third graders meet or exceed grade level expectations. Their fourth graders, 60% of their students met or exceeded the expectations. And then for fifth grade, 42.9%. And then if you move on, we have our the math scores. 43.1% of our third graders met math expectations, met or exceeded. Fourth grade, 57.5% of our fourth graders at Singing Hills met or exceeded their expectations. And fifth grade, we were at 40.6%. And then CMath scores for science, we were at 30.2% at Singing Hills, met or exceeded expectations. But let's look at where we are today. Well, actually, where we were like 2 weeks ago when we took the assessment. So beginning of the year reading data. So we're focusing on reading, starting with reading. Kindergarten through fifth grade, we have 32% of our students already at grade level. And remember, end of the year expectation or higher. We have 52% of our students that are ready for grade level expectations, and we have 17% of our students that are needing extra support. And then the breakdown per grade level. Lots of areas for growth, but I think we have a lot of percentage of students that are ready for learning. So you might, look at third grade in particular. You have a lot of students in green, very few in yellow, and then we have a larger percentage of students in the red. Those are the students, again, that are getting take-flight therapy. We have 2 take-flight therapists out at Singing Hills. They're co-teaching a second grade classroom. So one of them teaches in the morning, the other one in the morning is teaching take-flight, and then they flip-flop. And so we have take-flight therapists out there. We have reading interventionists out there. We're doing wind time out there. There's lots of supports happening in our classrooms.
I have to say, those 2 teachers at Singing Hills, they are just delightful, and they are so excited, and they love the Take Flight program.
Yes.
They love that they have learned to do this. They are just on fire.
Yes.
And they are amazing, and it is very exciting.
Their energy is contagious.
It is. It is. It was a joy to talk to them.
They're very excited to be able to see the growth that they can help create this year. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's move on to math for Singing Hills, and we're looking at kindergarten through fifth grade. Again, like I said, the yellow. Remember, yellow's okay at this point of the year. 62% of our students are ready for grade level expectations. We have 21% of our students that are below grade level. They do get some extra support out there. They have the personalized learning platform, but they also have built into their schedule a little bit of math intervention. So, and then there's the breakdown by grade level for math. And when I come back we give big middle of the year assessments in December before we go to Christmas break. So when I come back in January, I'll be able to show you what kind of growth we've seen from here until the middle of the year.
When you do that, can I ask if you could, and you may have this in mind, but if I could see this data on the same slide as the middle of the year data, so that it's really obvious.
Percentage point or color?
I would prefer percentage point, but whatever works best. But
Okay.
I would like to see side by
Like
side data
percentage
so we can really
points?
see it in a glance.
Okay.
That it is how it's improving, because
Yes.
I know it will be.
Yes.
But I think that would be a really great visual.
I can do that.
Thank you.
You bet. If we move on to Elizabeth Middle School, their enrollment as of last Tuesday was 380 students. Elizabeth Middle School's school performance framework, they are on an improvement plan. They earned 48.7 points out of 100, which was an 8.7% decrease from last 2024. CMath scores for sixth grade reading, we had 38 38.5% of our students reading at grade level or above, so meeting or exceeding expectations. 7th grade, we had 46.3%. And 8th grade, we had 38.9%. Are you comfortable moving to the math scores? Okay, holler if I'm going too fast. So 6th grade math scores, we had 28.6% of our students meeting or exceeding expectations. 7th grade math was 20%.
Why do you think that one's so low?
We changed curriculum on middle school teachers 2 weeks before school started. We provided PD when teachers came back. I don't believe that they had enough time to digest the change in curriculum and be able to internalize the change, because it's a different way of teaching, right? And different curriculum, and it wasn't what they were used to. And I think that probably created some of this. They now have had a whole year of teaching the curriculum. They've had additional PD throughout last year and again at the beginning of the year. We actually have Nathan from iReady coming in here in a couple weeks. He's going to be doing learning walks. He's going to be doing some professional development with the teachers on, I think it's the 20th of October, on math, and then he's going to be doing some learning walks with the admin there to be able to, for him to coach them. This is what it should look like when curriculum is being followed and we're seeing success in the classroom.
Now, they had a Zern before, didn't they?
They did, yes.
It was
So-
the whole school though, right?
Yes.
Because
I'm
6th grade is a couple points off of state. 7th grade is almost 12 points off of state, and 8th grade is just over a
Yeah.
point off of state.
Right.
That's why I focused on 7th and why that one was such a big drop.
Yeah, I'm going to also indicate culture. We know we had culture issues. We made some major changes at the middle school mid-year. We've also made some leadership changes at the middle school. I think those are huge. And I think, again, beginning of the year data, I think, is going to be important on this one in particular as well. So.
I've had conversations with a 7th grade teacher, and I've heard more buy-in this year with the curriculum. He understands how it should be implemented and how the personalized learning platform works with the core curriculum. So we're providing more supports. I think it's again, culture, because admin is supportive of the changes that we made in curriculum last year. Our new admin is supportive of that and is willing to set time aside for PD for them. So, I mean, we had PD last year, but if the culture isn't ripe for that development, it doesn't stick. I can tell you from being in those classrooms this year, it looks a lot different. So, one of the things I will point out is that while we had licenses for all of our middle school students to use the personalized platform in iReady for reading and for math, it was not utilized. So it is being utilized as part of the do now of our direct instruction. iReady, the personalized learning platform, that's what they're using for their do now in their reading and in their math classes. So it is being done with fidelity every single day in that building.
And the reason for that curriculum change was, I mean, the Zern was not going well. Parents hated it, the kids hated it, so we needed to make a change.
Yes.
And when you make a change, you know.
Change is hard.
Change is hard. And then with the culture, like you said, on top of it, it was just difficult. But this year, you know, a year under their belts and a much better culture, and this should
I mean,
turn this around.
We honestly received the books for the math curriculum for the middle school 2 weeks before school started. That didn't provide enough time. So. Was
Would
it
we
the
have
wrong
been-
change?
Mhm.
No. The timing just might not have been right. So,
So we could have
CMAS,
had the same outcome. Had we stuck with the Zern or gone with the I-ready?
we don't know that, right?
Yeah.
So,
Could have been the same.
and like Mr. Zander said earlier, anytime you make a change in curriculum, you're gonna have a dip.
Mhm.
I think that was our dip. Now we have nowhere to go but up.
Okay.
So, CMAS scores for science, we had 39.2% of our students meeting or exceeding expectation, definitely over the state average there.
Still not what we want, but.
No,
Yep.
but we take our
Yep,
successes
and
where,
we will
right?
take the win.
Yep. And, sorry, I had a duplicate slide
I was gonna
there.
say-
Sorry about that.
That's
That's
okay.
it. I'm like, wait a minute, I just did that
You
one.
just like the balloon draggy things.
So I wanted to make sure you saw the science scores.
Okay, yes.
So this is the beginning of the year I-ready reading scores. So look at your percentage of students that are in the green and your yellow. And we have 36% of our students in the red right now. We have implemented a reading intervention program. We had a take flight therapist at the middle school. We do not have, we actually do have, we're contracting with somebody to do the take flight therapy. And then Cindy is going, Cindy Conyu's going, I believe, 3 days a week to do it's called JET. It's take flight on steroids. It's specifically for the 8th graders that are really struggling. And it takes 2 years of take flight and condenses it into a year. And really
Trying to
trying to
accelerate
focus
them.
on those 8th graders to get them to grade level and give them the skills they need so when they go to high school, they'll be successful.
So the take flight is for dyslexia. Can we attribute 36% of the kids to having dyslexia, or is this just kind of a reading boost as well?
I will tell you, a great deal of those probably do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually have a high school student coming down who's dyslexic, getting services at the middle school
Yeah, it's a high
because of
school.
dyslexia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's
I
why they
was-
put in the mandatory testing, so.
I was talking to Cindy on Friday about the high school student, and they are on fire with it. I
Yeah.
mean, they are doing so well with
Yeah,
it.
I've got another family meeting with me next week with Cindy.
Yeah.
And-
So it was exciting, because I think this kid knows, I've got to do something, and he's just on
Yeah.
fire with it.
Yeah.
And he's going to be very successful with it
Yeah.
and really improve.
He's highly engaged in the lessons and he's showing the most growth. So to be able to provide that kind of therapy in a public school setting is amazing. So kudos to you as a board and Dan for being able to put funding towards that, because this is what some of our students need. Not all of us, our students, need that type of therapy, but kudos to you for addressing the issue. So, move on to your grade level. So you can see by grade level where our students are at the beginning of the year.
See, and I think it's important, Mike, to look at that. Look at the green in grade 8, which were 7th graders last year. So those are students who, at the beginning of the year, are on grade level, and yet look at the CMAS scores. So, again, culture impacted test taking last
But
year.
it was math, this is reading.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Nope,
sorry.
but we'll get there.
But I bet when you see math, because I looked ahead. So.
Math
He's
is
jumping
a-
ahead.
yeah.
So beginning of the year, if we move to the next slide, beginning of the year math data. Again, this is, 6th, 7th, and 8th all together. We have a great portion of our students that are ready for grade level expectations. We have some students that are struggling. Part of that gap will be filled with the personalized learning platform, that their plan that was created by doing the diagnostic, because of the fact that it is now an expectation that they're utilizing the personalized plan in iReady to at least 15 minutes a day as part of the do now. And so I know that we're going to see these gaps filled. So, and then the breakdown of your math scores by grade level.
So
Where'd you
20
do,
It
Jamie?
died.
Oh,
How many more slides do you have?
just a couple?
We've got him here.
Okay, they've got them there. Sorry.
Two.
So
It
25% of 8th grade are on grade level at the end of the year, where our CMAS scores showed, what, 10%? So again, I think, and you've got 40% ready for on grade level instruction. So that's the challenge of, again, I think
It's
culture
good
that
time.
impacted
Need to
7th grade testing last year.
Sorry about. And then if we move to the high school, we have enrollment of 642. They are on a performance plan again. They did drop 5.4% from 2024. But I also brought their CMAS scores for science. If you'll look, we have 47.9% of our students at the high school scoring, meeting or exceeding grade level expectations. Somebody's gonna be up all night drinking coffee at this point.
Compared to 25% of the state.
Yep.
so.
We also had double the participation in CMAS testing this year, so.
Are there other CMAS scores for high school?
No, they only take the science, and it's not, you know,
You can do
we have a high percentage of students that are opted out of that, so.
And we all talked about that, that is going to be a bandwagon I'm going to be on this year.
That's
and that
Mary's
is-
bandwagon
It is
this
my
year.
bandwagon. We've got to get the parents to understand
Yeah.
that these
Yep.
tests are important.
Yep. Last year, we improved across the
so
board.
that's
We
good.
had increased
Yeah.
Testing across the board, and
Well-
we'll continue to do so.
Not at the middle school. It did drop at the middle school.
Which probably culture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Teachers who discouraged even though
It
we
is.
encouraged.
I mean, if they think it's worthless and this is just stupid, I mean, guess what? It's gonna affect, the kids are gonna go, well, what's the point? And we do know that, and I said this at the meeting on Friday, we knew that some teachers who, some parents who had students who probably could have benefited from the take flight therapy or whatever interventions they were recommended to them. But the teachers said, oh, that's just those iReady scores, they don't mean anything. And when I said that, Pauline said, we've had conversations, that's taken care of. Because the teachers need to understand it, they can't be,
But if it's not the culture in the building to look at the data
Yeah.
and do something
And do
with the
something with
data,
it, yeah.
then it is meaningless
yeah,
to them.
because to the teacher, it's just a bunch of extra work to deal
Right.
with the data, yeah.
Well,
And
we
you-
So they
need
need to
good
understand the
leadership,
importance of it.
and we need accountability.
So, anyway, that's my bandwagon, one of them. Two of them. I'm not gonna promise it's the only one, but for this next year.
Right. And I mean, I understand the argument for culture, but I also think that there's, just a degree of, honesty that needs to happen. Like when parents see that if your child starts falling behind in fourth or fifth grade, that can translate to, a really undereducated child by the time
Mary?
that they're graduating
Yeah.
from
What did you
high
learn?
school. And that's something that, parents do care about, right? Like, and they also care about, I don't just want my kid being taught to take a test well,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
don't just teach to this test. So what is the value? The value is that when your child is graduating, they're gonna be graduating like on level, ready to be able to be successful, at whatever career they wanna
Yeah.
pursue at that
Yeah.
point. But I feel like some of it too is that communication there, cause there is pushback too, don't just teach to a test.
No.
Like, my kid is a whole lot more than just how they test on this.
Yeah.
Right,
And that's true, because, there are kids who don't do as well testing.
Yeah.
right.
But part of what it is all about is really wanting to graduate kids who are going to be successful in their careers once they move on, but we don't want them graduating at, middle school
Right.
level reading, levels.
There are a lot of jobs and careers in the world, right, that you have to be able to take a test to be able to do. Teaching is one of them, being a lawyer, you have to be able to take a test. While a child is not only a test score, that's why you use a body of evidence, right? We need to be able to assess them, so we have the data, so we know where they are. So I think the culture in our district has shifted this year, to where the data is not only being collected, it's being evaluated, they're digging into it. So I think we've made some leaps and bounds in that aspect, so.
To your point, though, I do believe that another piece of my bandwagon is educating the parents to understand the importance of these tests, the importance of doing stuff with their kids. One of the slides that we saw on Friday was kind of the scores and how they dropped. I mean, basically, these beginning of the year tests are, you know, you're testing them now, basically based on their knowledge from last year. How much have they dropped over the summer? And, you know, we were talking about, we all went through the, you know, the library contest, you know, how many books can you read over the summer? It was a big deal. You know, some little workbooks that take maybe 10 minutes a day on math or something to keep the skills up in the summer. It's not that hard. And yes, I know kids have a lot of activities, but it is not going to kill them to do 15 minutes of reading every day and 15 minutes of math, you know, every day, and then go on and go play and do their sports and whatever. I mean, those are great, but we've got to keep up the skills, and we need to get the parents to understand that. We've got to get buy-in from the parents.
Well, I think
that's my other piece of the bandwagon.
We've also helped with that is by giving our parents information, because the iReady scores have been sent home to parents. We also are in the process of sending home those letters, identifying students that are working significantly below grade level. So communication is happening, which is, I think, a component that maybe wasn't in place
Yeah, so there's
previously.
some parents that are probably in shock. I'm a little shocked. But I think that, you know, we definitely have areas, a lot of areas where we need to have improvement, but I just don't wanna see it get to CMAS time. I want regular assessments during the year, accountability. I don't want it to get to this point.
Well, and our policy with regard to the 3rd and 5th grade reading points, that is based on these iReady scores, right? I mean, because we have to.
That's
so
what,
it's
one
one,
point.
not
One
this
point.
No,
not the first year one,
No.
but the middle of the year one, and then notify them. And
we
then-
already notified some of them already.
Okay.
Because they need to know ahead of
They
time.
need to know, and then
So-
you know, we need the interventions in place, and
Yeah, because all
the
those
data is gonna
kids
help
in the
convince
red,
the
right?
parents.
I mean, they're already in danger, so.
Yes.
I mean, their parents are already been notified.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yes, they have.
You know, this data dig that these teachers are gonna be doing for all their kids is gonna be imperative for them in the teacher conferences that are be coming up here.
And we are doing multiple assessments, so we'll do not only the big diagnostic beginning, middle, and end of the year, we're doing checkpoints in October, we'll do another checkpoint in November. We're doing, in reading, we're doing literacy tasks, those are like minuscule assessments, so like reading nonsense words or reading passages, fluency tests. So we're doing a lot of assessing
Okay.
and data digging beyond what we've done in the past.
So can we get more frequent updates?
It won't look exactly like that, but
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
If you don't mind it not looking exactly like that, then that's, I can probably get that data for you.
Thank you.
So,
And you may not have this answer, you probably don't have this answer
I
right
can
now.
make it up. No.
But, but if there's something else that we can be doing to bring these reading scores up, if you or Dan, you know, if y'all think of, hey, we need something else,
Well-
let us know. I mean, there's literally, other than keeping these children safe, there's really nothing else that's as important as teaching them to read.
Well, and we've got the take flight. We've got, explicit and direct instruction,
Yeah.
which is
I mean, we've done a
proven.
lot,
It's a proven methodology that works.
Using the science of reading.
We've got, the science of, we've got good curriculum. It's just taken a long time to
But
get
we've
to the
had a
point
lot of
where
changes.
everything is coming together.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you said, that
Momentum
one
building.
school's had multiple
Oh, yeah.
leadership changes over the past 6 years,
Mhm.
right? So that, you start to gather some ground and then change happens, so.
Yeah.
Mary, I'm turning into a pumpkin now.
Yeah, I noticed the orange is creeping up.
I'm up past my bedtime.
Well, we're almost done, right?
Are we good? Can I turn off the mic now? Nobody else is speaking?
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Kim.
Don't let those leaves get in the way on your drive home.
Well, it's more the elk and the deer I'm worried about.
Well, there's that too.
Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
So next up, we have board member reports. So who wants to kick it off?
I'll kick it off.
Okay.
The canine search last week, I mean, that was tops. I think that was, we gotta keep our kids safe, right? And sometimes keeping them safe from themselves. I think that was, everyone was unbelievably professional. I saw a couple of exceptions, but I mean, it's just people being people, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, teacher, why did you let this kid come walk out of the class? Okay. Yeah, but 99% of it was just so professional and so well done. I had a chance to, you know, as the kids were and the teacher were coming out of the classroom, I was able to kind of, you know, talk with the kids, talk with the teachers, and so basically about a third of the school I got to see, and they were supportive of it. The kids they understood. I mean, I think they were appreciative.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably couldn't put that into words, but I think they were appreciative that we were there to, because we're looking for things that can literally kill them.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is one and done. I mean, if you take fentanyl, you have a pretty good chance of dying, you know, especially the younger you are. So, props. And I know some people took issue with why wasn't I informed? And I'll say that, well, that's just the breaks. Like, we can't inform you, because if you tell even one person, it's gone, right? The element of surprise, and you need that. And for multiple reasons, I mean, just to catch, but also, I mean, as a deterrent for later on. We need to do these things. So, and, you know, I've heard people say that we were searching kids, which is absolutely false, 100% untrue. I was standing there. I mean, I'm with the kids, so and nobody is searching them.
Dave, why are you searching kids?
So, I mean, the dog, you know, if they found something, they didn't just immediately, like, you know, put the kid on the ground and, you know, handcuff. I mean, they'd go and get another dog and bring him in just to check. Hey, maybe this dog caught. I mean, so I think the police officers, the canine units, the staff, everybody, props, and I think we should do those a lot more. And I just think, you know, and I think you were there too, and I think, you know, we were there. I mean, I wasn't there to oversee anything, but I mean, this is legitimate. We can do this, and there's nothing that was done to violate anybody's constitutional rights or anything else. So.
Well, here's my attitude. We can listen to the people who are like, that was just a horrible thing to do. You shouldn't have done it. Or we can do something like this. We can be proactive.
That's right.
Because we're gonna hear the anger that we did it. I would rather hear that over the cries of a mother
That's right.
who has lost her child
Yeah.
because of something they may or may have not gotten at the school.
Yeah.
But it is our responsibility for their physical safety, but that is a part of their physical safety.
Yep.
So if you want to be mad at us for being proactive, fine, go ahead and do it. But again, I would rather hear the bitterness and the anger on social media than listening to a mother cry because she lost her children. We've heard too much of that lately.
Amen. Yeah. No,
Yeah, I'll go next, because, yes, I was there observing the canine search at the high school as well, and, you know, I walked away from it really with a great appreciation for law enforcement in our communities. And I'll mention that we had the Elbert County Sheriff's Department with their canines, we had Elizabeth Police Department with their canines, and we even had Parker Police Department with their canines. And so, you know, major congratulations to them and their teams, because they really did a fantastic job. They were very professional. The kids treated it professionally.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as, you know, with barking in the halls, it was actually a very, like, peaceful process.
Yeah.
Like, everyone just filed out of their classrooms when it was time to search a classroom. They were all excited to see a dog, and then they all filed back in when the search was done. And I do think that it gave peace of mind to the students, to the teachers, to the staff, and to the families to know that that search was done,
Yep.
that there were no drugs found, and that, you know, the kids are safe at that school.
Yeah.
So I appreciated being able to observe it. Thank you, Dan, for setting that up. And I love the partnership that we have with those law enforcement agencies.
Yeah.
I think that's something that our community can be proud of.
And props to security guys, I'm sure they had a lot of, they were everywhere, all over the school they were organizing, letting people indoors and running back. I mean, they were doing,
Good team.
You know, yeoman's work that day.
Yeah, they were. And I also just wanted to say thank you to Dan for hosting the superintendent forum. I attended that this past week as well, and I think that people really like having access to you in a conversational way to just bring up the questions that they have, and I really appreciate that you're very straightforward. You answer people's questions directly, and if you don't know, you're willing to find out the answers. I just think that that kind of transparency is really important in building trust in the school district, and so I think that the people who came, some of them were even very pleasantly surprised by the answers that you gave, and I think that it's going to give hope to students who maybe hadn't been recognized as having, you know, dyslexia problems, who are going to get help now. So, you know, for those who might be listening, you know, I hope you'll attend the next forum, because Dan is very available and he wants to help all the families and the students in this district. So.
I can go next. Dan was gracious enough to let me tag along with him last week to visit the schools. It's been said before, but Running Creek is like night and day compared to last year, compared to the last few years actually. So I was really impressed with that. And yeah, it just seems like the teaching is being taught across the board. So I was happy to see that.
Well, I'm not going to say much. I'm actually going to ask Dan to reiterate something you said at the superintendent forum regarding the drug search, and that was with regard to the backpack searches and the car searches and the parental notification about that. Could you just talk about that, please?
Yeah, that's on my list. to
Okay.
talk about. So, did you have anything else? for you, Board?
You know, one thing I wanted to reiterate, tonight was kind of a tough public comment. And I want people to know, in my almost 4 years of being on the board, I've learned a lot. And one thing that I've learned is there are always two sides to every story. And one thing I want people to understand is that there's a lot of stuff that we cannot talk about because of FERPA, because of legal. So, you know, when people hear something like that, I really sympathize with them, because, you know, they have a very strong conviction about what they came and spoke about. But I want people to also understand that, again, there's stuff that Dan couldn't mention tonight. There's stuff that we just can't talk about. So please keep that in the back of your mind when you're listening to stuff like this. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I never want to show disrespect to parents.
No.
Parents' jobs are to advocate for their kids, and they're very passionate about that, and I as a parent would be as well. And I never want to challenge publicly a parent, and obviously their convictions are strong. But you know, again, it's always a challenging situation. So, canine search, just to piggyback, you know, we have amazing children. Obviously, you know, dogs alert on things for a variety of reasons. Cars, sometimes it's because, you know, we had some kids who bought used cars, and, you know, many of the parents we had conversations with were like, I wonder if who I bought the car from maybe had something in that car, because, you know, residual, you know, there's always residual things sometimes that are in cars that dogs are still alerting on. Backpacks, sometimes it's, you know, the smell of food that might in some way entice the dog over. Maybe it's so. We did have kids whose backpacks were alerted on, and I will say our security team in no way embarrassed a kid, in no way called out that kid, in no way made them feel uncomfortable. Kids were very discreetly, you know, pulled aside, taken down to the office, were very discreetly let know that, hey, the dog did alert on your backpack, you know, do you mind if we search it? All students were so respectful. We were very happy to report. One of the reasons I put out, you know, there was no way a pat on the back. It was we want everyone to know that, hey, if a child was seen being pulled down to the office with their backpack, we want everyone to know nothing was found, because those kids have a right to know that, you know, just because, you know, the dog might have alerted on your backpack, you didn't have anything. And so it's really important to us that we got that word out. Even cars in the parking lot, you know, again, there were some cars that the dogs alerted on, but again, after we did search those vehicles, nothing was alerted on. All of those students had the opportunity to call their parents. Some could reach them, some couldn't. But again, you know, all of those parents were contacted. So again, we had a few individuals who indicated that somehow word got out. Staff didn't know until the morning of. They found out at 9:15 that the search was happening. So even staff didn't know that those searches were happening until the day of. So obviously, you know, we're going to always try to be very discreet on planning of these. These will continue, just to be very clear. We will continue. We will do them at other schools, not just Elizabeth High School. So they will occur, continue to occur throughout the year, and so we'll promise that to the board and to our community. And again, I want to be very clear. I had parents who say we didn't know we had a drug problem. We do not have a drug problem. We have had no seizures of drugs in our schools.
As we clearly just showed.
Yeah, we have not had a problem. We had, as I indicated in the letter, we had parents who indicated their children heard students in the bathroom, they don't know who those students were, talking about fentanyl. And because we had a drug seizure by Elizabeth Police Department and Elbert County Sheriff's Office seize, we are on a corridor. Some of you don't know that Highway 86 is a corridor for drug trafficking. It does go through our community, unfortunately. And so there was a seizure in our community several weeks ago. And because that, coupled with overhearing, we thought, let's just make sure, because to Dave's point, you don't get a second chance with fentanyl, and we're not going to have any risk of that for our students. So just to clarify, we don't have a drug problem in our community, and we're going to make sure we don't. And so we appreciate the understanding of our parents, and we won't give advance notice to our families. We will let you know. I know some parents were concerned because we texted. You know, maybe we shouldn't do that in the future. We didn't want parents to hear we had, I think, 7 police cars roll up in front of the high school at one time, and we thought we wanted parents to know there wasn't something going down. That's why we texted. Again, I think darned if we do and darned if we don't. So we'll continue to try to refine. We have had some parents meet with us to give us some feedback, and we'll continue to get better as we do these. So Canine Search, like I said, we appreciate the understanding of our community and felt like it was overall it was a good event, but we can continue to get better. Staff Development Day on Friday. We have all day staff development, no school on Friday for our students. So parents, if you didn't notice that on the calendar, buses will not roll on Friday and your kids will not come to school. And if you try to drop them off, you might notice the parking lot's empty. So our staff will be in training at Elizabeth High School all day. Homecoming parade is next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday. Permission slips are required this year, so permission slips are going home for our elementaries and our middle school. Parents do need to sign permission for children to go to the parade this year. I don't think the district has done that in the past. So if your child is going to be transported to the parade and back, you will need to give permission. If your child doesn't have a signed permission slip, your child will either stay back, or you may come and pick them up if you'd rather them not participate. But we really want to make sure you know your child is leaving the school and going to the parade route and coming back for dismissal. So just expect to see that in the coming days. And even Running Creek, you'll get permission for your child to actually walk out of the school and line the parade route. So just know that that's coming. And high school will dismiss midday for parade. So if you want your child to ride the bus to the parade route, you'll give permission for that, just because we do want to make sure you're giving permission for your child to actually go to the parade route. Otherwise, your child will be dismissed, and we'll count that as a half instructional day. There are activities at the high school after the parade. There's tailgating, there's the homecoming game, all of those things. So obviously, if you don't want your child to go to the parade, we'll supervise them at school. There'll be an open cafeteria, things like that. But expect to see that coming home. Board candidate forum, we do have a board election. If you didn't know that, we have a board election coming up. So board candidate forum next Wednesday evening at the high school. And then, as it was already mentioned, superintendent forum. You know, we want dialogue. You know, it hurts when people say, you know, I don't care, I don't want to hear. I do want to hear, and forums are always a great opportunity for just dialogue. We are far from perfect in the district, and when we get things wrong, I'll admit it, and we'll problem solve to try to make it right. I was excited to see the large number of people at the forum. They seem to be getting larger. I think Mary has attended many, Rhonda has, and Nicole came to her first one as a board member this last time. So my next one is November 8th, I think. We'll get that out November 18th or 8th, or one of those dates. It's coming up in November before Thanksgiving. So we'll get that out. We're doing a Tuesday night this time. I know Wednesday night doesn't work all the time for everyone, so we're going to vary the days so we can get people there. I do want to address a couple of things, and I actually prepared a long statement, and I know it's late. I'm concerned about some misinformation out in the community, and I'm concerned about people who just, I call it Elizabeth derangement syndrome, because there are people out in our community who just want to seize on any misinformation they can. I was really saddened over the weekend that a teacher who announced her resignation appeared in our board packet, that there were members of our community who seized on that and went to social media to try to spin that she was leaving because she hates our district, when in fact life happened for her. Her husband got transferred, and she was really sad to leave. And before she could even tell her children, this group of people in our community who want ill on our district thought it was cool to go out and try to blast her resignation all over the community's social media. This is Elizabeth derangement syndrome. These are people who used to work for the district and left before I was here, before this board was in place, but they want harm for this district. They abandoned the children of this district, but they want harm to this district, and they hurt this teacher. And I'm angry about it, folks. I'm really ticked off, because here's this teacher who lost the opportunity to give her heartfelt news to her parents. And frankly, it's wrong. And I don't know how to help this community understand that this group needs to stop. They don't care about this community. They left this district. They don't have their children in our schools. And why they think they have a right to harm this district is beyond me. Another thing they've gone out is to try to say, oh, this dyslexia program's nothing new. We did it before. No, we haven't, folks. They're talking about this program called SIMMER. SIMMER is simply an intervention program. It's an intervention program that the Colorado Department of Education piloted in 22-23. If you look at our reading data, even back 3 years ago, we've never had more than 50% of our kids read at grade level. So if SIMMER was so great, then why haven't we done better? SIMMER is not a dyslexia program. It's a balanced literacy program. It's a reading intervention program. Take Flight is a therapy for students with dyslexia. It is a master's level training that we are providing to our staff to provide therapeutic support for students with dyslexia, and for this group to somehow say, oh, don't give this district any credit for doing anything different because they did summer before, is just really aggravating, because we have staff who spent all summer getting trained to do real therapy for students. And again, these people left our district, they don't know what we're doing, and yet they're trying to take pot shots at the district and hurting staff. They're not hurting me, they're not hurting the board, they're hurting staff. And frankly, I'm sick and tired of it. Folks, I hope if you see information out there on social media that is downgrading the district, downgrading the board, downgrading staff, downgrading anything that's happening, reach out and get accurate information, because frankly, it's false. Let me tell you the real story of this district. Since this board and I have taken over, we have focused on instruction. We have focused on returning our schools to environments of learning. We have, without raising taxes, increased teacher salaries by $6,000. We have increased support staff salaries by 10%. We have provided armed security presence in all of our campuses. We've worked to build a fund balance to address our infrastructure needs in the district, and we haven't asked for one additional dime of increased taxes from our taxpayers. We continue to empower parents to make important decisions for their children, regardless of their background and beliefs. We've removed politics from our classrooms, and we've refocused our efforts on instruction. What does that mean? We don't have MAGA flags in our classrooms, and we don't have Black Lives Matter signs in our classrooms. Our staff know that our children come to school with their values instilled in them by their parents, and they go home with the values instilled in them by their parents. That's a school district we have here in Elizabeth. That's a school district that this board has put into place. It's a school district that we run here in Elizabeth. It's a school district our staff is committed to. That's what we are in Elizabeth School District. And frankly, I am sick and tired of those who want to paint us differently. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
You see, we have a good team.
You do.
We have a good team.
Getting better all the time.
All right. So next up, consent items. I move that the board approve consent items 7.1 through 7.7 as presented.
Second.
Can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
No.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Well, this will be a little shorter since we scratched.
Yeah.
That's good.
So first action item, we have our second reading of revised policy JIH, student interviews, interrogations, searches, and arrests. I move that the board approve the second reading of revised policy JIH, student interviews, interrogations, searches, and arrests.
Second.
So we know on this policy, we'll bring Tyler Rabideau back in, we'll bring Chief Engel next board meeting, and we'll have him do some of the explanations. We'll do some reformatting of those that Mary suggested. And hopefully, at the next meeting, we'll be able to move this forward on the third reading and hopefully third and final.
Alright, any further discussion on that one? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
And next up, we have our second reading of Exhibit JIH-E, Student Search Form, paper or electronic. So I move that the board approve the second and final reading of revised policy JIH-E, Student Search Form, paper or electronic.
Actually, I think we were saying that we should do the exhibit when we finalize JIH next time. So I would say not final on that, just because the two should go together. Did we say that?
I think it could go.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't think,
Okay,
yeah.
well, Okay,
Yeah.
I'm fine if you
Okay.
want to, but.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything, it doesn't hurt to have the
anything
Yeah, I
form.
didn't think we had any problems
Okay,
with the.
Yeah.
I just.
I
thought
know we
did
said that
together.
about the
That's fine.
Yeah, the
We
public
did,
comment
yeah.
one,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
but,
okay.
so is
I'm
this
sorry.
one second and final?
Who seconded it?
I'll second.
Okay.
We're getting hilarious.
All
All
right. Slap
right.
happy.
Ooh, pick me.
Any further discussion on that one? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay, next up, our third reading of our new regulation KEC-R-2 library protocols. I move that the board approve the third reading of new regulation KEC-R-2 on library protocols.
We know we have some rewording to do to make sure we have the policy IJ referenced in here. We'll do some cleanup on this, add some words about general curating. We'll run it by our attorneys and make sure that no concerns with that. We'll take out destiny and make sure we just have general in there. So we will hopefully bring this back. We'll get it to you in advance and hopefully have final reading next board meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Yay for that one.
Okay, we removed 8.4 and 8.5, so 8.6, this is a second reading of revised policy BEDB agenda. So I move that the board approve the second reading of revised policy BEDB agenda.
Second.
And further discussion on this one, I know we're sending it back for revisions, we're gonna bring it back with revisions.
Key is really, I think, your idea of trying to make sure we have that second
Mhm.
public comment move up if there's time. So I think that's really the key one, and I like that, so.
All right, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay, our 8.7 is our second reading of revised policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings. I move that the board approve the second reading of revised policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on this one?
Ditto last statement.
Okay, so can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Before I say aye, we're not doing final on this one, right?
Nope.
No, okay, good.
Okay.
Aye then.
No, I'll make those changes and send them out.
Okay. And, the last we have on the agenda is, the appointment of District Advisory Council committee members. So, we have a list that we put together
It's in your book,
in my book.
last
Okay.
page of your
All right.
book.
So, what we have here is the membership. So we have Elizabeth School District staff. Proposed is Elizabeth High School teacher Ginger Zander, Elizabeth Middle School teacher Melissa Papoose,
Yep.
Legacy teacher Jacob
Garamore.
Garamore,
Garamoni, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. I always say it wrong.
SHE teacher Christine Bastioni,
Mhm.
District Administrator Dan Snowberger, and our parent and local community member representatives proposed are Elizabeth High School parent Kristen Sanborn, Elizabeth Middle School parent J.C. Eiler, Legacy parent Heather Salazar, Running Creek parent Corey Transu, Singing Hills parent Jen Thorson, community member Jennifer Wallen. So with that, I move that the board approve the 2025-2026 District Advisory Council membership. Any discussion on that? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay, board planning, new business, anything we wanna add?
Just, I did put in your front pocket, if anyone is still interested, there's still, you're still able to register for the Leadership Institute's Learn Right, Lead Right Summit this weekend. The agenda is in the front pocket, so if you have any interest, let us know. We can send you the registration link. It's at no cost. It's pretty action-packed, lots of interesting sessions. So it's in Parker here, so let us know if you have any interest. So.
Okay, so with that, our next board meeting is Tuesday, October 28th, 2025, here in our boardroom. And with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 9:53.
Latest we've ever been, I
Yeah.
think.
I don't know. There might be some.